Good evening and welcome. It's hard to believe, but it's round 10 of the ASR Supercars Championship for 2021, and that means it's the last round of the Supercars Championship for 2021. It's taken a while to get here. We started all the way in March. It seems like so long ago around the streets of Adelaide, and it started on a street circuit and it ends on a street circuit tonight. The Reed Park Street Circuit, or more commonly known as the Townsville Round. We're going to have some fun in the sun, and hopefully with a bit of fun tonight for the rest of the field, because with the championship sewed up for Luke Rosella, he's got nothing to worry about. All the interest is on everything that happens behind him. Welcome along, everybody, wherever you happen to be watching around the country, or indeed across the ditch to the guys in New Zealand or around the world. My name's Steve DeVries. It's a pleasure to welcome back Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes for the final time this evening and for the year. Good evening, Rhodey.
Evening, Nether. It's great to be back. Lewis did a mega job last round at Pukekohe, but I think we've proven last round that I'm better positioned here than I am on the track behind the wheel. And good news is Hans will be back in my car tonight. But no, I'm really happy to be out here for the last round of the season. And yeah, no, you're right. Championship is sewn up at the top, but there's still plenty to play for on the table. There's going to be, I think there's still positions to play for in the drivers and the team's title, and there's still plenty of guys out here just to have some fun. It's a really good circuit, Townsville. It always produces some good racing.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's usually features a lot earlier on the calendar in years gone past, so it's a bit of an unusual curveball that the field's got tonight. It's the last round of the season. Usually the last rounds are things like Gold Coast or any of those sorts of open tracks, but years gone past, it's sort of fallen about round 6 or 7. This time it falls right at the very end, and as I said before, a bit unusual. We're bookending the season with a street track on either side. Adelaide at the beginning, Townsville at the very end.
Yeah, so the usual part is using Townsville. We're actually, even though we haven't planned to, and I think the closest we got to replicating actual Supercars calendar was a couple of the Super 2 seasons where we're actually matching liveries to a round, which we haven't done this season just for ease of use at the broadcast end. We're actually matching a little bit in that we're going north to a street circuit, which is what Supercars did in 2019 and is, I'd say it is going to do next year, but they're actually putting it as their first round next year, but that's the Newcastle Street Circuit, which is north of Adelaide. So we are actually mirroring Supercars, but also very much not. But no, it's a really good track. And actually, it'd be interesting IRL if they were to do this, because normally Townsville, being run in the middle of the year, is because of the heat that you get up north. Running it now, you get 30, 35 degree day, if not hotter. So it'd be interesting to see what the cars theoretically would look like if they were to do a race. We'd probably see, I suppose, like we've seen at Sandown Raceway for the State Series when they had a really summer hot day with the MGs all falling apart. But no, it should be some really good racing.
Yeah, agree. Looking forward to seeing what is in store over the 235 lap races tonight. It's going to feel like an eternity for some of these drivers, to be brutally honest. 35 laps is a long way to go. I think we've had longer around here in the past. There was a 200-kilometre race. I think it might have been last year when we did Townsville, and that was more of attrition. And this is only, to think of, it's only better part of 90 to 100 kilometres the distance for each race tonight. So you can imagine what it was like from last year, but it still feels like a long journey around a street circuit that's every bit as punishing as Adelaide. If you step a foot out of line, there's concrete walls everywhere. There's a little bit of runoff, and of course there's the very famous JP Courier chicane, which I've actually seen Matt Cecil take to that chicane and roll the car, not in the same fashion as Courier did a couple of years ago, but in some mighty unusual circumstances as well. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that as the night rolls on. Be keen to see what happens with that chicane. What we'll do, we'll have a look, leave the track preview alone for the moment. We'll go and have a look at the drivers' standings coming into tonight, because as you said, Rhodey, there is a little bit to play out here. So 9 of the 10 rounds completed. Luke Rosella cannot be beaten. There's a maximum of 300 points on the table for any round, and that includes both race wins. So Rosella being slightly under 400 points clear means that he is safe. Barring any disasters and penalties and stuff tonight, which is highly unlikely, he is safe. The real battle is what's happening behind. Positions 2nd, 3rd and 4th can all change hands tonight depending on what happens, and we have got all 3 of those drivers here And then a bit further down the order again, you can see there's 7th, 8th very, very close. Lewis Sweating not taking any further part in the series. He's been delegating duties to Dane Liccardo for wildcard and substitute appearances in the Loose Sim Sport 777. But interesting to note there, Rhodey, that it's going to be very close. It's going to be interesting just to see what happens with the guys in positions 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, so that sort of bracket, we've got last year's champion, Kurt Stenberg. We've got the last Super 2 champion who's moved up and made a really big swing, Tim Redmond. And then Will Devonish has always been there or thereabouts, hasn't always been necessarily swinging for a driver's title, but has been rock solid with the team's titles with CRE. But again, Will always seems to be the bridesmaid in the Supercars Championship. Never quite got the groom himself, but still, he's got the chance to get second here. But no, these three guys have been fighting at it all season. Kurt's probably been the quicker of the three, but a bit of unluckiness has fallen his way, and consistency has fallen better for the other two. But we'll cover that in a little bit because we're about to start qualifying.
Yes, indeed. He actually got stung pretty badly at the last round too. There was a penalty that was levied against him on for Pukekohe at the second race. He had an indiscretion where he actually turned Will Devonish at turn 4, so there was a little bit of clean-up work to be done with that one. It actually cost him a few points there, so not quite on the back foot, but a little bit closer to Devonish than he otherwise would normally have been. And as you just alluded to, here we go for qualifying for race 19 out of 20 for the championship. Geez, Rossi gave the wall a bit of a rub there. What on earth was he doing there?
I don't know. Actually, I just don't know with the lead car of the lane, so I actually have no idea why that happened. But yeah, I don't know. I know strange. The pit lane. I know PBF. Well, no, actually, we're not too close to the end of the pit lane, so I'm not sure why he's watched the wall, but hopefully no damage there.
We'll put that down to him catching up on Bathurst in real life, I think, because as everybody knows, it is Bathurst weekend. So happy Bathurst weekend in advance, everybody. I think a lot of drivers in this field, suffice to say, would be glued to the TVs for the next 2 days. If you've got a man cave, that's probably where you're going to be spending most of your time. But on top of that, I think this is no better way to be put in the mood for a Supercars weekend than to have a race the night before you go into the Bathurst weekend.
Well, exactly. You're doing a Supercars finale before the Supercars do their finale.
That's right. That's I think the nice way to put it. So everybody, just about everybody out in the circuit, just Turmo and Cheese, the only two men that are not out there on the circuit. First man actually going to get a lap in is going to be freakish. So very, very early out of pit lane in the Nissan. And let's go on board with the hamburger cam for a lap of this circuit. So turn 1 through the very, very fast, flat out kink of turn 1. Now down to turn 2, braking on the left. Try to clip the apex a little bit. It wasn't too far away there. You want to use all the road here. That's the most important thing about street circuit. You've got to use all the road when it's afforded to you. Like that, on the run to turn 3, right up against the fence. Maximise your turn-in point. Just go through the little bump there as well. Now through the first of the chicanes. This is the one we call the JP Courier chicane because he rolled it right here and back in 2019. And then went spilling off onto the left-hand side. Freak's done that quite well. Turns it early for this chicane, tries to straight line it a little bit. You can use a lot of the roadway that is on the other side of the yellow painted lines, up and over Boundary Street, with a very, very important bump to control through this third and final sector. Just misses the apex slightly at the hairpins, last part of the course. Powering up through the gears, now onto the final corner. Again, braking on the opposite side of the road. Maximise the turn-in point, get the clipping right, use all the available road on the entry and the exit. Opening benchmark is a 12.1. That's actually not a bad time at all.
No, he's just over a second off of the best time in practice. But yeah, for one of the Super drivers jumping in, he's done a pretty good job. He has then been beaten by another Kiwi, Scott Stancliffe. He's done a 1:11.3, and then Luke Rosella 1:10.7.
Yep, so Rosella now into a 10.7. So this is now getting well into the quali laps that we were looking towards at the back end of the practice session. That's actually quickest lap of the race weekend so far. So Redmond now even makes it better, 10.6 for Redmond. So the numbers are advancing very, very quickly here, and that's now the best number we've seen so far in the practice sessions all week long. And they've only started popping up in the last in the last half hour or so, where these numbers have been starting to get into the 10s. At one stage, Redmond, I actually read, he gets very close to the wall there. Redmond earlier in the evening in practice was on a 111.111. I actually took a screenshot of that because it's a number you normally don't see, where all the digits on the timing are exactly the same as the digit around them. So very, very strange one there for Redmond, but a very fun little photo to take. And let's now go back and have a look at Will Devonish, who's just coming through the second chicane on his first flying lap and very nearly did what JP Courier did not 2 years ago, and he has to bail. So that was a nice hair-raising moment for Devonish there. Let's have a look at that one on the Smith & Sons replay, because that was definitely a very, very interesting situation for him. So on board, this is what it looked like from his point of view, coming through turn 3 and 4. So first part of the chicane wasn't too bad, very nice and settled, but he turned it in way too early. Whee, and up she went on 2 wheels.
Yeah, a few drivers doing that curb, you wouldn't think it looking at it, and it doesn't really trick them up IRL, but it's just the curb profile and just the way that you attack the curb. I suppose you haven't got the fear of real life, you would be turning in when you do. But yeah, a lot of curb use with these cars around that corner and just pops the wheel up. Luckily no one on the outside either, because we've seen that happen before as well. But no, Will's back in the pit lane, or right in the pit lane. I'm probably going to get some new tyres and probably going to change the pants as well.
Yeah, I think so. They just followed Cam Rutledge into the pits there. So it's currently third overall, Will Devonish, on a 111.161. So not too far down the standings, not compromised. So he was on another flying lap, had already set a time. Take a look at the 2020 Series champion Kurt Stenberg, who's of course going to give up number 1 after the pair of races tonight to Luke Rosella. And he's always been one of the quick ones in ASR. And he's actually on an outlap at the moment, but he's pushing very hard. So maximising the tyre temp, trying to get everything going for him before he starts a flying lap. Now he's just coming around the final corner now, and ahead of him, Foley, who's actually got a nice livery there. We'll actually talk a little bit about that one tonight. That's actually a tribute livery for Brent Foley tonight. He was the only one to put one up. He was actually going to be afforded a luxury of running his retro round livery tonight, because he missed out on the retro round at Calder Park due to some power outages that were in the area, and didn't get him back until I think about a day and a half later, after the race was actually done. And because he didn't get a chance to run it, we offered him the opportunity to run it, and he decided, oh, can I do something different? So we'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later on. Stenberg got Will Devonish ahead of him. Wasn't too bad to the first sector split. Second sector split, oh, he's a bit deep there at second chicane. That's probably going to compromise the lap there, I think, Rody. I don't think that's gone according to plan. He'll still post a time, so he'll put something on the board, but that was less than ideal through the second chicane.
At the very least, compromised lap. I'm surprised he didn't put a track cut, because he was well off the course in doing that, but he seems to be all right from what we can see on the live races, live timing. But yeah, that will put him off. Will also let him through there, so whether Will's backing off from his captain lap he's on as well. I mean, Will's pretty safe in third. Kurt's not set a time yet, and it's going to drop him in 8th. Not a bad lap, but for the standards of somebody who won the championship last year and is fighting for second, not what he wants. No,
I agree, and I think you're right. I think he's lucky there to avoid getting the track cut. I was a bit concerned. I thought because it was that part of the chicane's actually classed as Sector 3, that's why it wouldn't have registered. He would have already registered 2 sectors before the cut would have come up, should have come up. But it looks like he slowed down enough to actually register a time. So for him, that's currently 8th place, 1.3 seconds off the pace. As we go back and have a look at the rest of the field, continue to go through. Scott Stancliffe now about to start a proper flying lap, towing Termo along for a little bit here. This is actually pretty good qualifying for Stancliffe. I think this is one of his better qualifying efforts so far. Admittedly, there's a couple of quick pedalers a bit further back in the order that haven't really shown their proper hand yet. Just mentioned Kurt Stenberg being one. Dane Liccardo, I think, has probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to prove as well. He was quite handy around here in last week's Super 2 race. And then we've also got the Lockie Lockmobile, which would normally be in the hands of Pete Savage. So there's one that won't be making it tonight by the looks of things. Stancliffe with the lights on. Stenberg obliges to let him through there. Oh, big lock up. He's done almost, yeah, and he's had to cut that as well. Surely that one's going to be a cut. So he wasn't up by very much. Probably wouldn't have advanced him up the order anymore, but just a big lock up going into the same chicane, which is a little bit of a trouble spot. There is some runoff road there, and we've seen some incidents in the past where they've had to use the runoff road, but on that occasion, it's again just a little bit of a track cut, and we'll see what comes of it now. Man, I'm interested now here, Roddy, is Turmo, as Stancliffe does the same thing as Stenberg did. Obliges it, gets out of the way as Turmo comes across. Oh, stricken car, which was Justin Cecil in the Mustang for Ben Hall this weekend. So there's a few adds, moves and changes we'll have to get through, but a few drivers getting a little bit untidy in the latter stages of qualifying one.
Yeah, I imagine for Turmo's sake, I mean, that might have been off, probably a little frustrated as well. Turmo has been a little sick the last couple of days. We've known him around ASR as being somebody who doesn't talk a lot, unless you can really squeeze the words out of him. But the past week, he's not been able to say anything at all. His throat's been playing up, so that's probably putting him off a little bit under the weather. But he was looking on for a good lap there, but in the end, just like the rear up. And a couple of drivers have been doing that. So it's a really crucial exit out of that last corner, because it comes into a nice long straight where you lose a tenth or two at the bottom end. You're going to lose 4 or 5 tenths at the top end, and yeah, it both finishes your lap and starts the next one.
That's right. Unsighted to us, Luke Rosella has gone through, not on the last lap, but I think a lap before, and he's actually gone now to the top with a 1 minute 10.674. So 15 thousandths of a second ahead of Tim Redmond. Not much in that one at all. And then Devonish is now a further 4.5 tenths back as the champion-elect for 2021 continues to push on. Now, it's an important topic, this. We do need to discuss this. You did see on the points graphic before for the Drivers' Championship, Will Devonish still has the pole positions award for Supercars for this year as it stands. He's only one pole position ahead of this man, Luke Rosella. So if you get to pole in this one as time has expired, he can level up the scorecard going into the final qualifying session in about an hour's time and potentially snatch that one away from him, as well as the 2021 series title. It would be a clean sweep, I guess you can call it, as well, with the pole positions. It's not the fastest laps. He's too far back in that one to really challenge. He has got the maximum number of wins on the season. As he lowers the mark again, 10.447, and that will definitely be tough to beat.
Yeah, the only driver that was on track doing similar times was Tim Redmond. He was 2 tenths up through the first sector on Luke's previous time, but he had a big swapper coming through the dip out of turn 4.
He's bailed.
And he's dropped a couple of seconds, and then he's ended up pulling in. So did Will Devonish ahead of him. So unless somebody's going to come from downtown to have a crack at this.
Stenberg's the only one that can do it here. He's the only one that's actually on a lap, and he's the last man that's on a lap too. And he actually goes to P7. So he was looking quite handy there for a little bit, but he ends up with position number 7. So a little bit lower starting order than he otherwise would like. But there you go. Rosella levels up the ledger going into the second qualifying session later tonight. So that's a little interesting side note that we probably haven't had a real good solid look at, I guess we could probably call it, Rhodey, going into tonight, is just how everything came to pass with how that all standings for there. Well, interesting set the stage there. Rosella, Redmond and Devonish top 3. NZ Snipes, that's a really solid effort from him, ahead of Scott Stancliffe, Brent Foley, Kurt Stenberg, Freakish Brendan Ross and Peter Throw, the top 10. So all the Kiwis except one, which was Cheese, got through into the top 10 there. So that's actually a really strong showing. I'm actually mighty impressed to see so many Kiwis up there.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of them outside of, I say a lot of them outside of Tim and Scott, which is 2 of the 5, so it's not really a lot of them. But most of them have been running Super 2 series and got a bit of practice here. From memory, the race at Super 2 were about half the length of what this race will be. They managed to get a softer last, so they'll probably do a soft run, which probably I felt gave them a bit of confidence both in that and both on the pace front, in that, it's a bit of the same. The other thing could be that they've brought in some work as the last round of the season. That they do work together as a big group. Obviously, there's 3 Kiwi teams that have been run in Supercars. And I'm guessing they've managed to find a setup that works. It's a hard thing coming across from Super 2 to Supercars, because Super 2 you have a fixed setup where you adjust your driving style to the car. But with Supercars, you can mold the car to your driving style. And if you don't know how to do that, it gets really hard to get the same pace, because the flexibility goes the other way around. But yeah, I'd suggest the Kiwis, and they've got some good guys there. When it comes to the setup front, I imagine a couple of them have sat down and done some practice over the last little while and have tuned in that setup. And yeah, really good to see all in the top 10. Seeing a couple of other cars jump in. Matt Cecil, I believe, on his way back in. He dropped out just before qualifying started, and Hans Brunswick has also jumped in, so they'll be starting off the back row of the grid.
Yeah, keep an eye out for Hans Brunswick off the back of the grid. That's going to be an interesting storyline to see how he goes with this one. But while the warm-up session just gets underway, it's only 5 minutes, so it gives us an opportunity, with thanks to Google Earth Studio, to have a look at our final stop of the year. It's been a great little tool, this Google Earth Studio, for us this year, so big thanks to those guys and girls for putting this package together. We zone in on North Queensland. This place has been around for quite a while on the Supercars calendar in real life. It is pretty much made up of most public roads, or mostly public roads, with a little bit of parkland area, and it's known as the Reed Park Street Circuit in Townsville. 2.86 kilometres, 13 turns, and the two races tonight will both go the duration of 35 laps as we counted. The qualifying record, geez, we got close in the end, so we were only a tenth off, with Rosella just being 110.447 was the quali lap record. In quali just gone, so he's a tenth away from Stenberg's marker from last year. Interestingly enough, Rhodey, this is one of the real quirky lap records from a race trim. It didn't get set last year. It has actually been set by the man that we'd mentioned had rolled at the chicane a few times in 2019, JP Courier, at a 1 minute 11 flat, and I do mean flat. I did go back and double check this last night to make sure I did have it right, and it is indeed a record that is not one of the ones that Kurt Stenberg managed to break last year.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to this was an earlier round in the season than it is this year. And last year's cars, from the conveyance that I picked up both as a driver and being involved in that side of the paddock, they were not as easy to set up as the 2019 cars were. I know that PBO had to do some really crazy things at the back end of the season to try and extract some pace from them. So that probably played into as well. Courier, much as he was around the group, he was one of the quick buggers. He was probably one of the first aliens, as we think of them, that we had running in what was the ASR Supercars at the time. Kurt didn't come back racing with us until the year after. But it's surprising that record still held. I have a feeling, though, with the pace they're putting out, actually, I probably should have checked that beforehand. Yeah, the pace they're putting out, I could see that going tonight, especially if the strategy is a soft run, probably at the back end of a stint, or maybe if they got the fuel to make the things last week pretty close to, maybe the first couple of laps of the second stint, when you're very much track focused, but the car's still got fresh rubber underneath it. I'm surprised by that one too.
Yeah, very surprised, and I'm with you. I can see that lap record going tonight. I think we've seen a fair few of them go this year. Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg have lowered a few markers. I mean, there's only two men that have actually gone under the 1 minute 11 barrier so far this weekend, and that's Rosella and Redmond. So if it's going to come from anywhere, it's going to come from one of them. Maybe Kurt Stenberg, you can probably put him in that group as well, maybe to get in there and break that record, because the lap record he set last year in the 200 kilometre race was a 1 minute 11.115, so it was only a tenth and a little bit away. It wasn't too far, but I'm with you. I can see that going tonight for sure. A little bit of pit stop practice going on for Steve Burko here. Always good to tour the lane and just check your transit time, because it is one of the weirder pit lanes that you do. It's very narrow. You can see there's not much either side of the car going down the line. And I do want to give a big shout out here as well. Lewis Wedding's done an awesome job this year with a lot of the track modifications, and one of the bugbears from this year has been from last year was the Townsville pit building. Well, you can have a look at it there. It is absolutely pristine.
Yeah, he's done a really good job. That was one of the issues that, for whatever reason, the way the track was originally created, the pit boxes, as the game treated them, weren't lined up with the pit boxes that were actually physically there. So half the time you might end up with the car spawn pointing directly at the garage support pillar, which meant a 25-point turn with the steering rack of a supercar to get the thing turned and actually get out of the garage. But no, he's done a really good job not only fixing that up, but obviously giving a whole new garage. From memory, it is based on the one at Adelaide, although Lewis is in the comments and will correct me if I'm wrong there.
Very similar, I think. There's a few differences in the Adelaide pit building. That has the podium area and some stuff as well. It's not there, but I think it's got the same sort of look and feel as a lot of that stuff, but no, it's a really good job, because the one thing we did have some problems with was in those garages down below. In the old version, there were some real concrete pillars that would often be in front of cars trying to get out of their garages, and there was no way to avoid it. Even if you tried moving the car to a different position, it was going to be a problem. So it's a really, really good job and a really good solid effort, and he's been a real workhorse this year and pretty much deserves a lot of the thanks. That goes to a lot of the team that have been doing a lot of the modding work, along with Nathan Higginson and Brendan Ross, who have done a fair chunk of car development and their own track development themselves this year. They've really pulled out all the stops in what's been a very difficult year for everybody, personally, professionally, and I guess mentally as well.
Absolutely. No, it's a good opportunity to get to do this. I was talking to someone today, actually, and talking about, what I do for I wouldn't say for a living, but what I've been doing for the past 2 years, and just trying to explain it, and just, it's the opportunity for all of us racing fans who haven't been able to do much racing IRL, whether it's do racing or, attend racing, or even just watch racing, to come here and do this, every 2 or 3 weeks, and it provides a nice regularity to that, and just accessibility as well is a really good factor of it. But a couple of guys getting some laps in there. Hans has jumped in the server. He's currently sitting 5th fastest granted. That's just in the warm-up, so that's not actually going to be representative. Matt Cecil's 6th fastest, so a couple of those guys getting some good laps in. I'm seeing a couple of comments as well. Rossi reckoned he had pole pace. Tomo would have had pace for the top 10 if it wasn't for his mistake out of the last corner. And Brood as well in the comment, which is Pete Savage, who's got Lockie Lock jumping in his car tonight. Letting you know he just got home from work, but he'll be watching on.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And good to have Pete along as well, watching in the chat. I know there's been a bit of a turbulent time for him over there as of late, as for a lot of people, I think, as well. Just snowed under with work, and as the economy picks up and stuff as well, there's been a fair bit going on there. So it's good to have him back, and looking forward to see him next year, hopefully. I know he said he's going to take a little bit of a break from all things sim racing, but we pray he's not lost to ASR, because he's definitely one of the quick ones that's up there on his day. We saw what he could do at Phillip Island earlier in the year, which was absolutely stellar with the pole position run that he had. I think in one of those races, our jaws were still on. My jaw's still on the floor from that one, to be perfectly honest with you, as we get set for race number 1 with 35 laps to decide the victor in this one. So it's going to be a very, very hotly contested race. I'd like to give a big shout out as well. You can see in the back there, I mean, it's a little bit hard to see just with the banner that's in the back there. It says thank you from the ASR crew. There is some thank you billboards on the sides of the track as well. And that there it is there. You can see the big thank you from all the ASR crew for everybody that's attended. We've had 20 cars at a minimum every single Supercars race weekend, and we've achieved that mark again tonight with 21. We had a record 27 at Pukekohe 3 weeks ago, so we're really grateful for everybody that keeps coming back week on week as we roll through this grid for race 19 of the 2021 season. Rody.
Alrighty, starting from pole is Luke Rosella, champion-elect for this year. Although I don't think that's going to slow his race down at any point. He's still going to go have a crack. He's got a pole title to go for, and just wants to just wipe the floor and send that point lead out as far as he can. Starting alongside him will be Tim Redmond, pretty equal on pace with Luke, and I imagine Tim will take the fight to him. Best starting of the 3 fighting for second in the points as well. Will Devonish third, finishing starts just behind him, with NZ Snipes behind him in fourth. Great effort from NZ Snipes, one of the Super 2 runners who's come up in Supercars and is doing a solid job. Scott Stancliffe, another Kiwi, in fifth, with Brenton Foley in sixth in his special Jamie Wynn Cup tribute livery. We'll talk more about that a little later in the night. Seventh is Kurt Stenberg, defending champion. Obviously, he's going to give up the one after tonight, but he's still got that fight on for second in the points. With Freakish in eighth, another good run as well for Freakish to be starting from the fourth row. Rossi starting from ninth, with Pete Thrower from 10th. Then we've got Dane Liccardo subbing in for Lewis Wedding again in 11th. Steve Burko, the other Lewis Simmsport Mustang, in 12th. Termo in 13th. He's got some good pace, so he should move up a little bit. With Cheese in 14th, not a bad run for Cheese. 15th for Darren Kemp in the Kelly Racing Plus Fitness New Zealand Nissan. With Walkie Walk in Pete Savage's car in 16th. Nathan Higginson, always here, always putting in a good show, in 17th. Cam Rutledge in 18th. Justin Cecil driving the Ben Hall, Luke McHugh Racing livery still got for me in 19th. Matt Cecil in the Penrite Kelly Grove Mustang in 20th. And Hans Brunswick driving the number 010 Roadies Photos Racing PBF Commodore out of 21st.
Whoop, I just realised that everything that I just said was on mute for a moment there. That's very, very fun. So this broadcast has gone swimmingly well. Apologies to all the viewers there. That was a bit of an unusual one. We just had the audio. That's all you had from that one there. And I think that's probably one of the best things we could have done. The audio was just absolutely perfect just to watch it all happen and unfold. Redmond is gone. He's had the whole shot. Rosella had an absolutely shocking start. I've never seen it so bad for him, actually, all season long. It's probably one of the most unusual things, as Foley challenges Snipes for P2, and he's got him. So, oh, not quite, goes deep.
Whoa.
And Snipes on the cutback. For a little while, it was Kiwis 1 and 2, almost going to be Kiwis 2 and 4 for a second there as well. And look at Stancliffe, he's got his defensive boots out as well. And he is really locked in combat here with Luke Rosella. Again, he's gone backwards to P4 now. He's managed to snaffle him there. Stenberg's made 1 or 2 spots, and now he's going to try and muscle his way through on the Kiwi Simsport 718.
Yeah, Stenberg got it up one spot. That start for Luke Rosella, I missed that in all the confusion, but no, that was a very uncharacteristic start for Luke. He's doing his best to recover though, and he's starting enough start by holding off these 2 kilometres behind. Kurt's got places to go, and Scott Stancliffe, he's qualified pretty well as well. He wants to get back up at the front, as well, but all this is doing is giving both Tim Redmond and also Redmond Foley a bit of a chance to run away at the front.
It is indeed. So Redmond's got a really good margin at the moment as well, and this would be a first for Redmond. I think we're looking at the wins list earlier in the day, and the wins have actually only been split between 5 different people. Rosella, Stenberg, Devonish, Colin Warwick, and Damon Woods are the only people this year to win a race. So wouldn't it be something to have a Kiwi on the top step as Stancliffe? Oh, there's a major contact! Major contact with Luke Rosella and Scott Stancliffe. Now, I'm not sure what happened there, but that's taken Rosella way out of commission here as well. I don't know if that's accidental, if he missed a braking zone or what happened there, but that's a real disaster. And that's actually triggered a safety car. So, and look at this, everybody's in. This is way early, but you're down the bottom of the order. You may as well take the pain. Let's have a look at this one on the replay, because this one for me, I'm not quite sure what happened here. The onboard will tell it. I think it might be just a way big miss of the braking marker. Yeah, that's not looking good. It's just a big, completely missed it. And
from what I can tell, Scott was racing Kurt behind, having a big battle. He's probably paying too much attention to his mirrors, not what was in front of him. Probably braked a little late to try and cover off Kurt, or was waiting to see what Kurt did before he braked. But yeah, in the end, that does look like a missed brake, and he's come steaming into the back of the Senior Sports Mustang. They both end up getting going in the end, and it was technically redressed, but that has put them both to the back, or near enough to the back. Stancliffe in 21st, and he's currently sitting in 15th is Luke Rosella. So they're both going to have to put on their skates once the safety car restart happens.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And that's a bit sad too, because Redmond had a big lead out in front, and he was looking very handy with the quick guys behind him in Devonish and Stenberg and Rosella well and truly buried in the pack and having to fight their way through, and it wasn't an easy task for them in the first couple of laps either. So this is an interesting play, especially by the guys at the back, because as I said, if you've got nothing to lose, you come in, you take a fresh set of boots, you top the fuel tank up, you can pretty much you can't get home from here. That's the important thing. You cannot get home from here. There's no way that it's going to last. You do, however, shorten your proper stop that you have to do. Essentially what you're doing is you're just topping up the car and getting it a little bit further into the race. So you do end up with some better tyres a bit later on in the race, and that stop and the stationary time that you have in the lane is a little bit shorter. So a number of those guys that came in will be looking to jump people here. So in order of the people that did that, it is this man on screen here. So Brendan Ross, he was one of the first men that was out of the lane, having already stopped once. Hans Brunswick, who'd made a couple of spots, he'd started 21st, he'd made up to 17th, so he'd made a few there. Lachlan Locke, who's in Pete Savage's number 58 for CRE Race Engineering. Then Cam Rutledge, Matt Cecil, and then of course the man who kick-started the chain of events in Scott Stancliffe. They all came in. Stancliffe would have repaired some damage as well, no doubt.
I would say so, yeah. So what it's doing for guys, granted I didn't actually have to talk to drivers to really understand the strategy. I'm just going off of it being half a length of the Super 2 race and scaling that up appropriately. But if you're running softs, it would be a one-stop race. This turns into a two-stop race for those running softs, but what it does is it gives you extra 4 laps up your sleeve that you're not having to conserve from your tyres. So it turns a 17-lap tyre stint or 18-lap tyre stint into a 15-lap tyre stint, which means you can extract maybe an extra 10th or 2 out of your tyres per lap and still have them master distance, which could be the difference, especially competing against the guys on hards who, if there are guys out running out here on the hards, they'll be able to go through. They won't have to pick up tyres in the stop. They'll still have to pick up fuel, but they'll save a bit of time in the lane there. And their performance across the race isn't going to be as varied because the hard tyre, as it wears down, is a lot more. You don't hit the runoff stage of the hard tyre like you would the soft. So your grip level is going to be pretty consistent, just fading a little bit through the race, rather than the soft tyre run, which is all the grip, and then you get to the other end and it's near none of it.
Yeah, correct. It gives us a bit of a chance to have a bit of a look through the field and actually just see who is the big movers and shakers in that one. Of course, Luke Rosella, we know, is the biggest loser out of that one. He's actually lost 14 spots overall from where he started, but the man who's gained the most spots at the moment is this man, Dane Liccardo. 5 spots gained. Admittedly, 2 of those will have been from the Rosella and Stancliffe incident, but he'd made up a couple of spots there. He's starting 11th and now running in 6th place. Now, he actually was a beneficiary from the incident involving Kurt Stenberg and Will Devonish and Pukekohe, which elevated him to a podium finish on his return to Supercars. So he'd be mighty happy with that one as well. I can tell he was happy in the Discord when it was officially announced, and I think that pretty much says that all going according to plan, he's going to be back in the main game next year.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, and a couple of drivers in the field, this is a dress rehearsal for them for next season. Dane, it's already been well documented, his season in Supercars, he's looking to pull out behind him, and yeah, a great showing at Pukekohe. Obviously that podium really capped things off for him, and really it's a feel-good moment for him. Early days tonight, but he's improving so far in his recent history with ASR that he's turned a new page and is working on and is coming back to the driver that he'd want to be rather than the driver he can become in certain scenarios. So he's looking really good, and and just in general, for Lewis to throw you the keys to his car, you've got to be doing a decent job because, it's Lewis's car. It's not something he hands out to anyone. So
no, correct.
Dane's been doing a really good job.
We're going around again under safety car as well, so we're going to get 4 laps on this one. So yeah, coming back to Dane Liccardo as well, it'll be we had a bet. Dane and I actually had an interesting bet. Neither of the bets resulted, unfortunately, for him. So the result was that if he got a podium in ASC, because I'd actually been doing a fair bit of work with him on engineering and conduct and that as well, that he was going to have to thank me. And unfortunately for me, that didn't materialise. The other half of the bet was that if I got a podium in the iRacing Formula V E-Series for Australia, that I was going to have to do a Super 2 race, and that didn't materialise either. So it's back to basically as you were, and I think we were both a little bit disappointed that things didn't go the way that we both wanted them, but anyway, we move on, and he's doing well. That's all I'm going to say. He's doing well, end of subject.
I mean, I would say, talking about that bet, there is still a chance for his end to work out. There is still 1 round left. There's the Super 2 and Super 3, if that's what he's referring to. Or there's also the Supercars with the 1000 coming up in a few weeks' time. So there is still a chance for him to do a shout-out to Nether in the press station interviews. He's still got that chance, but yeah, actually, I'm not sure whether you finished your V racing or not, but I know that the Super 2 series has finished for the season, so there's no chance for you jumping in the Super 2, which is a shame because we bugged you a little bit this week just to come and race with us at all.
Yeah, we got one more round to go. Unfortunately, it's Bathurst. I'm not looking forward to it, but that's going to be on Tuesday night. I deliberately haven't been posting the live streams in the Discord because I hadn't wanted it to detract from the Super Series that runs on the same nights, which actually is going to be the last of the live streams and the last of the proper racing, I guess you can probably call it, for ASR for 2021 on Tuesday night next week. Well, I think we should be going back to green flag racing this time around with a bit of luck. Safety cars being called in. Yes, we are. There we go. So we actually did, would have been close enough to 3 or 4 laps under safety car. That's at random value. So single file restart. This is a bit of a reset. So this, I think, is probably a bit of a free kick to people like Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg, who were otherwise engaged in a bit of battle there. Luke Rosella has definitely got a little bit of a get out of jail here because he was fighting. Although there he is in the back of shot. He's got a bit of work to do. And we're back to green flag racing. Redman has controlled the field. He's led all the laps so far. And off he goes again. Good initial launch. Foley just wasn't quite caught napping, but he's there or thereabouts, still weaving around, trying to take some tyre temperature. Here comes a dive from Jake McPherson, or freakish as his no Dennis. This is massively wide. A bit of contact there as well. He's going to get spilled a little bit there. That was very interesting there. Another safety car's been called for. What's happened here? Have we got another car around?
We do. We got Hans and Rossi down the back, so I suspect they've got caught up with the back or something. I'm going to go back in the replay and have a look.
Yeah, we're going to go back and have a look at that one too, because that was quite an interesting replay. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it, because we're about to bring the replay up here. So Hans all on his own, and coming down to the turn here. Oh, he's made big another braking mistake. So. That's an unusual one, and there was another car that was running through the area there as well. And as Hans regathered himself, who was the car that was just a couple of they took the avoiding action? I think it might have been Scott Stancliffe actually ahead of them. They sort of rounded Hans up on the wrong side of the road, I think it was. No, it was actually Cam Rutledge. So he bailed out of it quite early, and then ended up skating down the fat side of the road, I think it was, that they call it in football. The narrow part of the track, where he ended up having to get there. And, well, smart opportunity for these guys at the back. They've got nothing to lose now. They're going to come in and they're going to take some fuel and some tyres and probably repair a bit of damage. Now, wondering who else has decided to tour the pit lane here as well, or is it just these two? No, there's a third car. Rosella.
Yeah.
Now, I still think it's a bit early. I'm not sure about the fuel mileage. I still think fuel's a little bit marginal. Does Rosella throw a set of hard tyres at this?
That would be my thinking at this point. Because if you get another safety car, that just maybe helps to bind your fuel numbers. I'm not sure quite what's going in his head at the moment. He does know what he's doing. I will say that. At this point, sitting where he is, you're back of the pack, or you knew back of the pack anyway. This has put him right to the back. Yeah, throw on a set of hards and make it a fuel game rather than a tyre game, and that's probably what he's doing. Like, I don't know. I haven't actually driven around Townsville in the modern. I haven't driven around Townsville in this year's Supercar and to know what fuel economy you're looking at. So, yeah, he might be about right. This is something I honestly don't know about, but he might be about right. And if he is right on the fuel, then yeah, he's now running a fuel game rather than a tyre game. In which case, I'd suggest if he is running a fuel game, he'll be out there on hards.
Yeah, I'm looking at this too because we're at lap 8 and the Super 2 races a little bit earlier in the overall 3-week block that we run, which was last Friday. They were run to a tune of, I think it was 16 or 17 lap races. Actually, we'll go back and have a look at that one now just to confirm what that indeed was. We look at the calendar. They were 18 laps actually, sorry, I do apologise. So it was a little bit, it was just to get up and over that minimum distance requirement for Super 2. So they ran 18 laps, and drivers that were on soft tyres at the back end of that 18 lap stint, they were struggling. There was
we had, I think, 2 or 3 tyres below. I think they were all right or left rears from memory. But yeah, we had a couple of tyre punctures from the soft runners, and I think Matt Sessa was one of them. Somebody else, forget who it was now, but somebody who
there was at least 2 or 3.
It was Braxton Stancliffe, actually, who was running near the front and having a really good race until his tyre popped. He was, I think, coming second to Dane at that point.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 of them that went in that race as well. So soft tyre, I think if you want to get 16 to 17 laps out of a soft tyre, go for it. You know, you're going to have to stop and you're going to have to try and split this down the middle. It'll be very, very difficult to make it last. The safety car will definitely be helping those soft tyre runners that are up the front that haven't stopped yet come in and actually get a new set of boots. But the hard tyre is an unknown. So you take 9 laps off the 35, we get down to somewhere in the vicinity of 26. I would say the hard tyre go pretty close to make it the distance, but it's just more around maybe coming in, have to do a splash and dash. But I mean, if you're going to do that, you may as well throw tyres at it as well, just depending on how that tends to work out. But we keep an eye on that one with some vested interest, I think, just to see what his pace is like at the restart. I think we'll get a pretty good indication fairly early on if he's on the hard or the soft, but it'll take probably a full lap to get up to proper speed so we can actually work all that one out. It does give us an opportunity, I guess. Let's go back and have a look. We've been talking about this livery tonight as well, the Brenton Foley tribute livery for Jamie Whincup, of course, going through his final Supercars fling at Mount Panorama this weekend. The Triple Eight fanboy that he is, Brenton Foley, he wanted to do something for Jamie Whincup. So this is the original, the Tasman Motorsport livery that he had in 05, which was actually, I think, rated back on the VZ back in the day. It's a livery very similar to what we've seen Francois Habib run on the same sort of car in the local Vic State Circuit Racing Championships. But for a 2-hour job, Foley actually hasn't done a bad job on this one.
No, he's done a very good job. Yeah, you're right. This was a VZ. This was, I think, 2005, 2006. It was a Tasman Motorsport. This was his second crack at Supercars. He actually first started with Gary Rogers Motorsport and then had a split with him in I think it was the 04 season, if I remember correctly. It might have been 03. I did actually write an article about the car he drove at GRM, so it's just like the dates have flashed from my memory. But no, this was his second crack at a first full-time drive. This was with Tasman Motorsport. And yeah, this car and the chassis still exists today, is in Victoria, and has been run by Francois Habib. I believe he might have parked this car, or at least he's running this now in just Super 3 to run a second Super 3 compatible car in the Sport Sedan series.
Yeah, but, correct, that's what he's done. He's parked the original chassis because it had a massive shunt at Phillip Island in 2019. The same car had the engine rebuilt, actually got the engine shipped to New Zealand to be rebuilt, and he has parked that car exclusively for Super 3 events now. He's actually gone and got the Sports Sedan Championship winning car, Bob Gill, which he runs in the Sports Sedans now. That's what's happened. So it's good to see that livery going around again, but it's probably just been parked. It's up at Dean Lilly's, and Ravage Raceworks look after that car nowadays. As Tim Redmond looks after the field, we go back to green flag running, and I think, is he going to go quite early here? It's his prerogative to go when he gets to the control line, and again, led all 10 laps so far, make that leading the start of lap 11. Dane Liccardo got a very, very good launch back there as well. I'm not sure if he would have just maybe jumped a little bit. He's got Will Devonish. There's another position for Liccardo. Foley having a little bit of a look down the inside, but I think that's more of a defensive ploy. He's locked it up. I think that was more of a defensive ploy to try and head off Stenberg, and Stenberg's actually through. He's going to harass the back of the 43 here, and Redmond's going to already realise he needs to cover.
Yeah, like Redmond's good on pace so far, at least from what's on qualifying, but Kurt can be a really ominous person to have in your mirrors. Kurt, obviously, he's lost first. He's got second to fight for, and he's going to fight hard for that. So Tim needs to get next to the last few laps to get up to speed. Obviously, they're both racing each other as well, so Foley's in a good spot to just sit here and watch it happen and try and pick up any spoils. But no, the blowtorch is right under the back bumper right now of the number 43 ZB. It
is indeed. Darren Smith at the last round at Phillip Island actually just said one thing to me. He said that he had to come up with the best analogy. Foley is the wicket keeper right now, if you'd want to use a cricket analogy. He's just there, and anything that happens in front of him he's just going to catch. And he's going to, if it means another position or two, he's just going to catch it. So perfect analogy. I'd never heard it put that way before, but a great way to marry two great sports in this country together: cricket and motor racing. As there's a little bit of overlap here now at the front, so I think that Redmond's got to be really careful on his game here. Stenberg goes to the inside and Redmond leaves him the space. That's really smart driving, and a little bit deeper on the brakes here, but Stenberg's just going to have the line taken away from him. There's the block pass, gets it on. and job done. Oh, a little localised yellow back, and another safety car. Wowee, what's going on here? So
I see Will Devon in the runoff, and I see, is that Freakish already out?
Yeah, so there's one. Yeah. There's actually Justin Cecil out. Freakish is out as well. So I think there's been a little bit of something interesting going on here. It's turn one, turn two yet again. And I saw Higginson touring through the lane, so I'm wondering if something else went on here. So there was a pass going on here. Liccardo got the pass done. Devonish got absolutely smashed. Freakish is completely out of control there, and I think that's probably done a huge amount of damage to the Kiwi Sim Sports underdeveloped team car, and no wonder it's out of the race. So this is now going to be, well, there's no time certainty in any of these races, so what do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do?
I don't know. I know Freakish is a driver, and he's going to be spitting chips. That was not something he planned on doing at all.
Higginson, sorry to cut you off. Higginson just kept himself on the lead lap there as well, so he's extremely lucky. He was in the lane. I'm not sure what was going on there, whether he had some damage or something going on there. He knows the drill, and the drill is to pass the safety car, so he does that. He gets that lap back. He's actually, when it comes to the lucky dog, he's got some, I was about to say, there's some smoke at the back of that car. I don't know if it's engine issue or if it's something going on there, but there's, I think that car's not far away from expiring.
So
I'm a bit worried.
Some damage somewhere there, not instantaneously fatal, but similar to what we saw from Foley in 2019 at Calder Park, where he picked up damage off on the tie barriers, kept the car running, but in the effort to get it back around and put it in the lane to repair it, the engine temp kept going up and up and up, and eventually just cooked itself over. Yeah, we might see something similar with Higo, which would be a shame. We missed what happened to him. I'd say when they're in the lane, he must have happened at the back end of the safety car or something, but everyone was already joined up, so somebody wasn't paying attention. And then, so he's got his lap back. He's going to have to keep pushing, and any advantage he might have got from pitting before the safety car as it was, he's lost, because he's going to have to do the next 3 laps at race pace to have any chance of catching the train. And
he's got to roll around a little bit too. He's going at full tilt though, almost as well. So he really needs to just lift and coast a little bit here and try and get in. Now, first bit of real play going on here. NZ Snipes comes out of what is essentially 3rd or 4th place on the road and comes in for a stop. So this is the first of the real interesting ones that I'm now going to look at. We know Rosella had stopped the last safety car, and he was right at the very back of the field anyway. And he actually had made, he's actually made a bit of progress. He'd moved all the way up to 8th according to Live Race's live timing. So I'm going to be genuinely curious to see what that's all about there, because he's made some gains. Now, there's a few other drivers down the order. So Burko's down to 14th, Liccardo's down to 13th. So I think that maybe they have decided to take a couple of stops as well and come out with all of this. And they've got a bit of work to do now as well. So there's going to be a bit of mixed up strategy and a bit of mixed up sort of order running through here for the next little bit. So, Brady, you're going to have to help me try and figure this one out, I think, because we don't know who's actually done what. And I'm just saying, it looks like Higginson might be about ready to give this one up. Looks like the HME Team Autodesk car is about to expire. It's actually on the front straight, and there's a lot of smoke going on there. So I think that's
the revs just packed in. So I think his engine's gone. That would be a damaged base. So that's going to be a shame.
And so he's out of this one.
What caused that? So that's the 3rd car out of this race.
So let's have a bit of a look. I'll see if we can get through the order here and just see who's actually done a stop. So we know NZ Snipes has been in the lane, and he's playing some catch up at the moment. And the next ones I wanted to look at was Dane Liccardo, and actually yes, he has been in. So Dane Liccardo has been in, so he's made a stop. And the other one I think of interest was Steve Burko, and he's done the same. So they actually came in at lap 12, so pretty much as the safety car, they came in as the safety car was being deployed. NZ Snipes came in 1 lap later. So that's why they're a bit further down the order than otherwise expected. Rosella had made his way up through the field. He made his way up to 8th. And the lap times that he had sort of set on that one back to green flag sort of suggests that he's probably on the soft tyre, just judging by what I'm seeing. I'll probably need a few more laps at racing speed to actually see that and have it work its way out. But yeah, there's a few, and Matt Cecil I've seen's been through the lane as well, although it looks like he's actually gone a lap down. I think he's. I did see him exit the lane. Has he actually come back onto the lap? No, he's on the lead lap. Yeah, he's on the lead lap now. The Penrite Mustang. So yeah, that's now corrected itself. So yeah, he was again toward the back of the field anyway. He's come in and put a fresh set of boots on and done the fuel numbers and gone from here. So yeah, I think now 20 laps to the end of this race, you could put a hard tyre on and you could get home from here if you could save some fuel. I think this is I think a few drivers might have played this one pretty well. I think Cecil's done a good job. NZ Snipes, if this safety car goes on for another lap, I would, if I was NZ Snipes and Matt Cecil, I would be in and I would top the car off with fuel, make sure it's going to go the distance and you've got something in reserve, and then off you go, basically, and then you're in the box seat. And also be on the hard tyre. That's the important thing. I don't think they probably realise that. There's no way they're going to make that soft tyre last 17 or 18 laps at full chat racing speed. They're going to need an insurance policy up their sleeve. They basically need another 2 safety cars to make it work on the soft tyre.
At least one more safety car to push them in right into just the start of the soft tyre window. Oh, Kurt Stenberg getting bought by a safety car there as it wobbles lane to pit lane. So we're going to have, this is the 3rd restart of this race already.
Yeah, correct. 3rd restart. So 3 safety cars inside the first 15 laps of Townsville. We've had one here before. We haven't had this many in a race before, though, at Townsville. We've had a few safety cars throughout the years, but I think this is almost going to be up there with the Gold Coast in terms of record numbers from 2020. And away we go again for the 3rd restart. This time, different leader at the head of the field. It's Kurt Stenberg ahead of Redmond and Foley. Then comes Turmo and Scott Stancliffe after all the incident with him early to cause the first safety car. He's caught back up, so he's not too badly placed at the moment, having already stopped as well. So that's something to be aware of. He's got to stop again, but it'll be for a lot shorter period of time. And then Luke Rosella is only 2 cars further back in position number 6. So Stenberg heads the way.
Yeah, just going through, making sure everyone got through cleanly that time, and they did. So we might actually, fingers crossed, start to get some green flag running in the next few laps. But no, Redmond getting away in 2nd. Foley's doing a good job keeping Stancliffe off in 3rd, and Turmo's having to fight off Luke Rosella for 5th.
Yeah, here we go. Here's that battle you were just talking about, Rosella and Turmo. Turmo a little bit wide there. Rosella with the narrow and the short exit, got the power down really nicely up and over Boundary Street, and then he gets 5th place away from Turmo. So that's a good little exchange there. Then come the two of the Kiwi Nissans, Peter Thrower followed by Cheese. So they've moved their way up the order. Darren Kemp makes another Nissan inside the top 10. There he is, just ahead of Brendan Ross. So again, some of those guys have yet to actually come in and complete their proper stops, but they might be able to stretch this out a little bit too. So this is going to be a real interesting strategy race for probably the next 10 laps, I think. Probably going to be critical for us to work out who is where and who's doing what. Stenberg locks up into turn 2.
Yeah, just got a message from Higo. It was confirmed it was engine overcook. Apparently the air temperature here is 32 degrees on track, even though the skybox is giving an evening nighttime. So it is very accurate. The heat up there, December evening at Townsville, is killing the cars. But no, I'll come back to you because in processing that, I've missed what's happening in the front.
No, you're right. So that's all fine. So Stenberg's still away from Redmond and Foley, and then Scott Stancliffe in 4th with Rosella gaining on him a 10th or so every sector. And we're about to go back and have a look at the Truly train headed by Darren Kemp. So in 9th, Hans Brunswick's now moved himself ahead of Brendan Foley. Sorry, not Foley, ahead of Brendan Ross up to 10th place, and he's now right on the back of the Nissan going into the hairpin. So a little bit of space has to be left. Long way around Hans Brunswick. Long way around Hans Brunswick. Long way around. Pass made. Very nice job.
That was beautiful. I agree. I did not think that was going to happen, and I'm surprised at the grit level there. Hans has had very little practice. The last time he drove Townsville would have been, it wouldn't have been with this league. I'll say that much. And to jump in without any practice or qualifying, jump in, do a couple laps and warm up. He's got no idea what strategy is. He's just really playing it, just seat of his pants. And yeah, he's already up to 9th. His benefits a little bit there as well, but that was a pretty special pass.
That was probably the Smith & Sons pass of the day, I think, as well. As we're looking at the back of Darren Kemp here, he's got Dane Licata behind him. This is a really interesting train because these are some of the guys that have already been in for a stop. So Licata's already stopped. Devonish, I'm not sure if he has or not. Brendan Ross has definitely been in the lane. So too is Burko, so too is Snipes, and so too is Rutledge. and I don't know about Lockie Lock and Matt Cecil at the very back, but this is critical for some of these guys. So Licato's probably got to get this pass done now if he was to have any shot of really making this pit strategy work. And I think he's going to send it down the inside here at 11. He's got some overlap, and no withdraws from the move, but this is awkward. Sort of half-heartedly had a little bit of a lunge, and Kemp elected to leave him some space, and that's some fair racing there. But I think Licato probably worried him out of it a little bit too much. Now he's got to just leave him some room on the inside here, but if he can hold it all the way down to 2, he'll eventually consolidate the move and actually gets it done off the final corner.
Yeah, it's all down to the drive. Running the outside line, yeah, it's a longer line, but you can get your car straight in a lot quicker. You can get down the throttle, which is Will's able to do behind you, and Will's just almost driven straight past Kempy in the straight line as well.
Yep, and that opens the door for Brendan Ross behind as well, although he wasn't, he was there or thereabouts. He just had a smidgen of the bumper overlapping with the rear end of Kemp here, and now Kemp's going to fight it a little bit, just argue the point a little bit up to turn 3. So this is all fair and all hard racing. He's making these guys earn it. Rossi has earned it that time, gets P12. So there's a lot playing out here in the mid-pack, especially with some of these drivers that really need to get their skates on. That's been really important for Licata and Devonish, because now they can kick away with at least one of those drivers having made the stop. The one I'm really interested in to see is if Will Devonish has been in the lane already, and I'm not able to confirm that he actually looks like he has. He's in on lap 12, so he's another one of those drivers that's looking to have a shorter field stop as Burko skates it into turn 11 and had the pass done, then coughed it up.
Yeah, so Kempy's making them work for it at the back. The couple of drivers that got through already. Rossi's a little bit quicker on pace, obviously. Will and Dane both running up to the top 10. Burko actually was having a good run. He was running, he qualified just behind Dane, but he's not having quite the same confidence passing Greg Kempy. He's actually been racing with him quite a bit recently, so I'm surprised they couldn't to get past. Should know what he's doing, but here he comes down the inside at turn 2. In fact, he's opened the door for Snipes as well, who gets through as Kempy grazes the wall.
Yeah, they call that making a wedge, basically. Burko was the one that made a wedge, and Snipes just followed him straight through. So, again, very important for those guys. They've already stopped, so they've got to make hay while the sun shines. Back here in front, though, it's a 2-horse race. These guys have really kicked away. Stenberg and Redmond, step for step. There's Foley in the background. That's how far he's dropped off the back of the top 2 in the last couple of laps since the restart. So this is only the 5th lap at racing speed since the restart. Already they've got a 4.7 second margin. And, of course, these two yet to stop for the first time. And judging on the numbers right now, they're at starting lap 21. We would have expected them in by now if there was a green flag running up to this point. So the real question is, how far can they go? How much fuel have they got in reserve? How far can they make the tyres last that they started on? As I said, I think the first 10 laps after that safety car restart were going to be pretty critical. We're now halfway through that duration, and I'm not sure if there's a little bit of skating around going on here or not. Roddy, what do you think?
I'm just trying to look at the times. If they're running 12s, I'd lean into them both being either ultra conservative or probably both on a hard tyre. If tyre-wise, granted you've had a lot of safety car laps, but you're still going to chew through those softs. I reckon, yeah, either really conserving the softs, and Kurt's body language in the car suggests maybe the former, but these two could be out here on hards, in which case they're in a really good position.
Having a look at Rosella's times as well, his last time was a 13.4, so that's the one I'm really interested in. And yeah, there's a very sideways motion for Stenberg here. Oh, here we go. There's the gamesmanship. I think that was going to be a box opposite call there for Stenberg, but he elected to cover off Redmond. And here comes Foley. So they couldn't get quite about, they got almost half, or just over halfway through that 10-lap block that I was referring to. So now this becomes the critical moment. Through to the lead of the race goes Scott Stancliffe. So he's actually no, sorry, I do apologise. Rosella has gotten ahead of Scott Stancliffe, and he now takes control of this race.
Yeah, so let's
do the math.
Sorry, Luke Peters doing our stop. So he arguing with him was it going to be a fuel game over. It was going to be a fuel game over a tyre game for him if he was on the hards. But if he's doing somewhat equivalent pace. He's been in traffic. He was obviously passing Stancliffe that last lap through, so that might have slowed him down. If he is out here on the softs, then he's going to pit another time. Stancliffe's going to pit another time.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure how Hans. I'm not even sure how. Hans has come charging through the pack. He's currently 4th on the road. he's got to probably stop another time.
He's got to stop.
Turmo.
He has to stop, and he's going to get Turmo a little bit further back here in the shot as well. Just keeping an eye on who was in the pit lane. So in the pit lane, we had Thrower, we had Cheese, Foley, Redmond, and Kurt Stenberg. They were the ones that just came in on that last tour. So they're all out on the track now. In fact, Stenberg actually made a little bit of a gain too in the pit lane. So I'm wondering if he's actually got the fuel numbers right. Maybe if Redmond's actually overfilled it a little bit. Turmo in, Scott Stancliffe in, Hans Brunswick keeps going. So they're all starting to play out with the cycling through all the stops here now. We know that Stancliffe came in after the first safety car was called as well. So there's a little bit still to unwind there. They're all just touring down the lane at the moment. So Stancliffe, Turmo, and I'd seen Matt Cecil go through the lane as well. So realistically, out of the people that have stopped first so far, it's actually Dane Liccardo that's in the box seat here. But the real question is, what did he do in the pit stop? Has he gone to the hard tyre? Has he got enough fuel on board? His last lap was a 13.7. So if he's on the soft, he's ultra conserving. If he's on the hard, he's actually not doing too badly.
No, so that pace is very much in the middle. It's really hard to distinguish. He ran Super 2 last week, so he's got experience making the softs last. And he was actually someone that pulled away at the front and had the tyres last. He got lion ball from memory in the first race, but really chipped away into that and improved that over the next 2 races. He could be out here on the softs running a conservation game. It then lies into what Will's doing, whether Will's also soft conserving and whether he's just using Dane as a basis of point, because Dane has the experience where Will might not. But yeah, either way, Dane, I think, in a really good position.
I think he's in a really strong position. Will Devonish is staying with him as well. Brendan Ross has been through the lane as well, but it was very early. So I don't know if he's been in again, having a look at the numbers now. It doesn't look like he's been in since lap 7, potentially. So he came in and topped off again. So I think he's got to stop again. He'll definitely lose that position. As Brunswick looks like he's now actually gone through to the lead of this race just while we're checking on the fuel stoppers. Actually, in fact, it looks like he's actually been through the lane too. He came through on lap 12. So again, might be a little bit too early for Hans to maybe make this one last. So that was sort of at the beginning of the second safety car period, so the third safety car period. I just saw Will Devonish have another moment through the Courier chicane. As see here, Brunswick now got to the lead.
Yeah, I think in the case of Hans, I saw his pass on Luke, and it was less a pass, more of a case of I'm assuming position over you. They're both in the same chat, so that would have been orchestrated. I think maybe what's happening here is Luke's playing conservation game to get to the end. Hans isn't. Hans knows he's going to stop another time, so he's pushing on to try and make the best margin he can before he pits again.
But what I think is happening here, though, Roddy, sorry to cut you off, I think what's happening here is for a very short period of time, Hans was leading out for Rosella there, so there would have been a little bit of draft assistance. Even if Rosella was trying to conserve, the draft would have probably helped a little bit. There
would have been. Luke's is on a 14.1, which is definitely conservation in either strategy option.
And behind Dane, the same lap time, 14.1. And Will Devonish has just gone through. He did a 13.7, so I think Will thinks maybe he's good here. So this is now again really, really curious as to how this is panning out, because they stopped around similar lap times. The gap between them, we're just waiting for the timing screen to tick over, so it'll tell us how it actually all looks for you there. We can see that it's roughly around 6.5 seconds. So Rosella to Will Devonish, you can see it there. Just do the maths. Subtract 1.1 from 8.4, you get 7.3. So it's just gone up a little bit in the last few seconds or so, as Hans Brunswick is in. So there you go. So that cleanses, I guess, the field. It gives us a bit of an insight as to what's about to happen. So how far can Rosella go? That's the real question. What was his lap time the last time around? It was a 14.1 the last time through. The last time that they're going through now, we're looking at Will Devonish on the screen here. 13.9 for Devonish, 13.7 for Rosella. So he did lift the pace a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm still not 100% sure I want to call this one yet, Rody. Probably if I get to maybe lap 30 or 31 and Rosella's still got this sort of advantage, I'm probably prepared to give it the tick.
Yeah, the other thing I'm interested on is Will jumping ahead of Dane. Dane's not actually... Will's not actually pulling away from Dane too majorly, but I'm not sure where Dane sits at this point, because he knows that he should have this strategy sorted for soft tyres. but Will's gone ahead. So whether he threw turn straight to the wind and goes with it, or whether Will's done the other way around and Will's just gone, look, if I don't go now, I'm never going to catch him anyway. And Will's just going, right, I'm going to catch him and make the tyres an issue for future me.
Yeah, well, he was quicker in the first sector that lap around than Luke Rosella, but he was slightly off in the second sector. They're actually pretty well matched in sector 2, almost identical sector times as Rosella comes up to the line this time around. It is a 13.9, so it's a little bit slower than the last lap. Devonish behind. What does he manage to pull out? He pulls out a 13 point. Come on, live races. Give us actually it's a 14 flat. Sorry, so I lied. So he lost a little bit of time in sector 1. So in sector 3. So
yeah,
this game of chess is really not sort of playing out the way I was thinking it was going to play out. It's more like they're just conserving to get to the flag here, I think. So Rosella is the leader from Will Devonish, who's now managed to kick away from Dane Liccardo. So there's another podium for Dane here, if he can keep this going. Then comes Brendan Ross. Again, I still think he stopped a little bit too early for this one. Whoop, he very nearly got the wall there at the Daniel Cox Designs part of the course. And then we've got NZ Snipes. Now, he's one of the ones that I think is definitely good to go here. I think he's on for a good finish here. So too Burko. I think Steve Burko's in a really strong position. You got Matt Cecil in between, who's a lap car. Then comes the two pair that were leading the better part of most of the laps for this race to begin with, in Kurt Stenberg and Tim Redmond in 7th and 8th. And then followed by Brett Foley having a lock-up into the second chicane. And then Scott Stancliffe in the 10. Hans Brunswick's come out behind Stancliffe after all that, but his stop was very short. I was actually keeping an eye on it, and he was stationary for about 5 seconds, so it wasn't very much at all. It was essentially a splash and dash and gone.
I'd say so, yeah, fuel stop. So he's probably no good. It's just a case of where he is on tyres. He might have gone to the hards, he might be on the softs. If he's on softs, he's having to watch them a little bit. If he's on the hards, he can go as hard as he wants. I reckon he's going to get up to and probably past Stancliffe the next few laps. He is pulling pretty good pace. I'll just check the lap times of the pair of them. Stancliffe did a 12.2, Hans an 11.9. So yeah, he is catching Stancliffe.
Yeah, he is. And on top of that, Will Devonish took 4/10 of a second out of Luke Rosella last time around as well. But at that rate, it's not going to be enough to get him before the end of the race. He'll have to pull out some really good stops here. Personal best for Hans Brunswick last time around as well on the track at a 1:11.98. Still no close to really threatening the lap record from 2019. Tim Redmond's the closest man so far, 1:11.435, which is actually pretty handy pace and would have been in the early going as well when he pulled away from the field, I'd imagine. As you can see here, that one of the really interesting battles and entertaining battles at the moment is Termo and Cheese, and then Peter Thrower not too far behind them as well. And a little bit further back in the order, it's a couple of Super 2 combatants in Darren Kemp and Lockie Lock having a good exchange over the latter few placings, with, of course, the strategy game having really and well and truly played out for these guys.
Just looking at the gaps now, amongst the top three, I think Will has made the right call and has actually conserved almost out of sight from what we thought he had. He's pulled 5 seconds on Dane. Dane, at his end, doing a 1:15 on his last lap. So he's, I think, very much questionable to make it to the end, which, if he's pulling that sort of pace compared to the 4th and 5th place cars, and actually I say that there's a race for 5th at the moment.
Yep.
He's might not even be in with a podium shot.
Oh, there's a lock-up head on with Burko. Who's that? It's NZ Snipes that's in the fence. What's happened to Snipes? Is he's off the road here? So he's been helped by the looks of things. Smith & Sons replay time. That's a shame for Snipes. He was doing really well. And I was keeping an eye on things because there was a pass at turn 2 where Redmond got through on Burko, who was just starting to slide backwards. I'm wondering if Stenberg maybe has just accidentally helped here. There was a little bit of overlap. Oh, that one I think might be probably on Snipes for that one. I think there was a little bit of overlap there, and I think maybe that one is unfortunately going to go down as a racing incident for him. That's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think he just underestimated how much space he had to the wall, and that Kurt was alongside. He wasn't necessarily alongside enough to command room, but he had to give him room, or that would have happened. And I think, yeah, Snipes has just inadvertently come across on him. So that's a shame. He is still in the top 10, but not the pace he was thinking to have. Actually, it's dropped him right in front of the Stancliffe.
Hans battle. Yeah, it has indeed. And here we go. There's Stancliffe just having to take a defensive line there. I think there's some communication there. Thread the needle through there. And it was turned defence on Brunswick into attack on Snipes, and goes up to what is now P9. And now leaving Brunswick to battle with car 420 in the Nissan. Oh, Stancliffe,
No.
did he get the wall?
He did get the wall, so that's two cars in one corner for Hans, which he didn't expect to get at all. It all just came his way. So he's now up to 9th. Stancliffe 10th. Snaps back to 11th.
Some of the passes are opportunistic at best, I think. The best pass they say is opportunistic at best, and he took full advantage of that one. So that was a really good opportunistic pass for Brunswick. Stancliffe getting it just a little bit too hot and giving the fence a bit of a rub. And we have a look at his teammate actually as well. He's just on the other side of the hairpin. So Stenberg and Redmond have just started to make their way through the field quite nicely here. So Redmond up to 5th, Stenberg up to 4th. Then they're going to start to get to Dane Liccardo. So this is where, if Liccardo's got anything left in reserve here, he's got to use it. He's got to use it now. He's got better part of 5 laps to hold off for a podium for Lou Simsport, a genuine podium for Lou Simsport.
Something we missed in all that as well is Rossi, who's now back to 6th. He was the one moving in on Dane, so he's dropped back. I missed when. He's actually got a pit cog up as well, so he might be question mark on tyres or fuel.
I'm wondering if he's having some issues here because he's just allowed Foley down the inside of him at turn 3, and Burko's going to go through as well. So I'm wondering if car 444's got some issues at the minute, whether he's rubbed a wall or had an odd lap somewhere or what have you. His last lap around for Rossi was a 1:16.7. Suggesting he had an issue somewhere, or his tyres are starting to go, and he's trying to get. He was one of the ones that stopped very, very early, and I said was probably a little bit too early to try and make it home around the lap 12-13 mark, and I think he's now starting to suffer. Now Liccardo, I've just kept an eye on here. Liccardo's actually let both Stenberg and Redmond through, so Liccardo's last, he actually had a poor middle sector. 17.9 for a middle sector is really poor, and a 1:15.7. So again, some of these guys that have just stopped, that have been on the cusp, as Rossi, I can see in the back of shots coming into the lane here, are just starting to suffer just a little bit.
Yeah, so I think Dane, tyres. I think unfortunately, the back end of this race is going to be characterised by a lot of the front runners just by having stopped too early and having to make the car last. And Dane, tab out of 5th, he's also looking just to have some clean racing, so he's happy to let those two through and maybe, hope that something happens a bit further up. Gap for the lead still 7 seconds with 3 laps to go, so unless something really goes wrong for Rosella, I think he's got this one in the bag. Yeah,
he's looking at him on the screen at the moment. He's just got some lap traffic to deal with Darren Kemp. Should be able to clear him quite quickly. 6.5 is the margin. See Devonish is in the back of shot there as well. There's a few cars having to stop really late. That was Brendan Ross just exiting the lane. On the front of the screen there, as Rosella 14.2 that time around. We go back to Will Devonish, and he's registered 13.7, so he closes the margin down, but he hasn't been able to close it down at the rate of knots. So this has been a really interesting drive for a lot of these drivers, having to really work out their strategy on the fly and who's been able to do it best.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. And there are some drivers in the field who do prefer the sprint form of racing, where it just comes down to pure pace. And some drivers out there who enjoy or just straight up just can, because it can be a hard thing to do, trying to sit down and run laps and also do mental math about where your fuel and tyres need to be. But Luke seems to have done well in this situation. Still, coming on to 2 laps to go, and he's still got a nearly 6-second gap over Will Devonish. Will's not had a bad run either. He's probably still comfortably clear of 3rd and 4th, which is crucial for him in that fight for 2nd overall. One of the drivers who hasn't ended up doing it so well is Dane, who's now dropped back to 6th. He's just dropped behind Foley, who's coming back through at the end as well. And drive through for Scott Stancliffe there, that would be a track cut at the slow chicane.
Yeah, correct. So that's for track infringement. So he's been pinged for that one, and he's a little bit further back in there. Where was he? He was 8th overall. So that's not a good end to race 1 for him. Liccardo now has conceded position to Brent Foley as well. So 6th place for Liccardo. Again, those tyres really starting to hurt a little bit for him.
One lap.
That
car was not having a good time.
No, he's going to struggle, I think, here with Brunswick a bit further behind him, who's just gone and set a 12.7. So he's going to struggle to hang on to a rampaging PBF Roadies Photos Commodore in a minute, being all over his rear.
No, he's good, because Hans has just looked it.
Oh, there we go. So old commentator's curse. He's going to try and pull the J-turn here, is he? backwards down the track. Oh, we've pinged a few people for this before. It's just not ideal trying to get out the way, but he's gone into the thing there.
Reversing into the runoff, and then rather than having to do a J turn or a U turn, he can just pull a left hand turn. That's not the quickest option out, but it's clean.
So what do you do here? He just did it all by himself, just gassed up. Oh, he's given the fence a bit of a lick there as well.
So that will still be a top 10 finish for Hans, but he was on charge there for, I think it would have been a fifth or a fourth in the end, which starting from the back row, having done no practice, that's not
very
too
commendable.
bad. It's still a very good run either way.
Yeah, very commendable. All right, we're on the final two of the race, thank goodness. After all of that, we were predicting it was normally about a 40-minute race, but it's gone to nearly 50 because of the three safety car interventions. Hard to believe, as Brute has put it in the chat, Pete Savage, that the two men that found themselves being wiped out in the first 2 or 3 safety car interventions are going to finish 1 and 2 on the road in the form of Luke Rosella and Will Devnich. Who would have thought?
I've watched some crazy racing this year, and I wouldn't have called that. This entire race has been a roll of the dice. It's strategy plays, yes, but you had to get, much like Bathurst this weekend for the real life supercars, you have to get to that final point. You have to get to there in a good position. They've first and second managed to luck out into that one, and that's going to be another win. He hasn't got there yet. He's about to now, though. Another win for Luke Rosella, really just pushing out that lead at the front.
He certainly is. Done a really good job, so he moves his win tally for the season onto 8, believe it or not. I've almost got to think this is probably close to being a pretty record-setting season in terms of wins for him. Will Devnich home in second, so that's good for his championship fight. He finishes ahead of Kurt Stenberg in third, so that's an interesting one. And the men who led a good portion of the opening stanza of the race, the two of them third and fourth. So good result for Redmond too. So the guys that were battling for second, third and fourth overall in the standings will have to do some points calculations and bring you the updated points there after this one's over. Brenton Foley in fifth. Just noticing as well that Rosella is doing burnouts in the non-approved area at the moment. It was meant to be after turn 3, I believe, so we'll have to go and double check what that one is. There might be a post-race coming for that one. Stewards normally are pretty well onto those sorts of things. Steve Burko in 6th place, so that's actually a good result for Burko. He actually got ahead of NZ Snipes. Where did Liccardo finish in all of that? He faded. He actually stopped, I think, again for a second time. So that means Termo's in 8th.
Yeah, he's just crossed the line.
Termo's going to push home here, I think, as well.
He hasn't crossed the line yet. I think a tyre went.
All right, so then Brunswick 9th and Cheese in 10th. Throw up, and then Stancliffe finished, and Brendan Ross, so Brendan Ross 13th, Rutledge 14th, Lockley Lock 15th. He's just made it. He's just made it now, and I think you're right. I actually think that there's been a tyre let go for this one. Oh yeah, he's have a look at this car coming around the final corner. He's crawling. So he was maybe a little bit too unkind to the tyres there. Oh, look at that. It went on the front straight all by itself and had to get reverse gear and get across the line. So he was off the track, thank goodness, when it happened, but he has been now registered officially as 16th. And Darren Kemp, Matt Cecil, the only other cars that did not make it home on the lead lap. So interesting conclusion to this one. Very interesting conclusion to this one.
Yeah, a couple of drivers that managed to pull something out that I didn't think were going to have it happen. A couple of drivers that we thought were pretty well, tucked in and then had it fall away. Dane was a big surprise for me because, again, he's had the week's worth of practice, theoretically, in a race scenario over most of the Supercars guys. So I'm surprised that he's fallen back the way he has. But, very intriguing into that race.
Yeah, very, very unusual race, I think we're going to put that one down to. There's definitely been a few, I think the safety car, for 3 of them basically, threw a few curveballs at the drivers, having to do the strategy on the fly. But the men who play that strategy, I guess, the best are with us now, Rody, and who are we going to start with?
I'm going to start by having a chat I'll start with Kurt Stenberg. So, Kurt, you were... Well, actually, you tell me how your race went, because it was too hard to keep track of up here.
Well, I didn't qualify particularly well. That's the first thing, and we started a fair way back, but we got a really, really, really good start, and we were up with Luke off the the start there. I know he got a shocker, but and yeah, the safety cars kept coming. I just decided to elect to try and save the soft tyres under the safety car. I had a battle with Scott Stancliffe. I saw the first safety car accident caused, and yeah, I just wanted to save my tyres. Track position I thought was king. Stay out, try and save tyres. I knew Luke was on hards from what he said, and yeah, just wanted to try and chase everyone down there after the stop, but it wasn't going to happen. The gap was too big, but yeah, I feel like third's a good result from where I started and the pace that we had, because I don't feel like we had the pace of guys like Luke anyway and Will.
Yeah, so like the time conservation paid off in the end, and you sort of got lucky in the way that all the safety cars panned out that you weren't involved in anything. That said, though, no, you're right. Very good job, especially for having qualified on pace. That has left you third. You're still ahead of Will. You've got a couple of points up to Tim Redmond. Are you having a crack? Are you still have a crack for second in the points, or you just here to have some fun for the last race?
I'm just here to have some fun for the last race. I've seen the gap; it's a bit insurmountable after last round and the rest of the season. So if we can hang on to third, that'd be good. And yeah, we'll have a crack at the win. I don't really feel like we got the tyre life to be able to get the softs to halfway, and I don't really feel like we got the pace of some of the guys. But yeah, we've played around with some setup options, and we'll see what we can throw at it in the next one. Because yeah, I'd like to get on the top step. I thought it might have come to me, but yeah, unfortunately, strategy didn't play perfect way like the others did.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, you've now got a race's worth of experience under your belt, and fingers crossed, race two goes a little better for you.
All right, thanks, Reddy.
No problem. We'll have a chat now to Will Devonish. Will, a little unlucky early on that race. From memory, it was an incident you had with Freakish down at the first corner.
Yeah, it's we've had a chat already. Apparently missed his brake marker being up the bum of everyone. So yeah, no harm, no foul. If anything, it probably helped us, given the position we were in and all the safety cars. Where we weren't planning on all the safety cars, so that strategy we had sort of went out the window. So improvised on the run and it worked well.
Yeah, that's my next question. Is did you have enough strategies lined up, or were you going straight off to your pants and you're wearing? I don't think anyone had any strategies really to come after three central safety cars at a race we don't see a lot of them at normally. Yeah.
So yeah, took the gamble, and given that we were so far back after the nudge, sort of ended up being a no-brainer coming in. So worked really well.
Awesome. And yeah, as it sits at the moment, you've got a 30-point gap to Kurt for third in the points. You reckon you can swing that the other way in race two?
It's going to be pretty hard. I think Kurt needs to finish in the teens, and I have to finish in the pretty high in the single digits. So never say never, but I think it'll be a hard call.
All right. Well, yeah, you have a crack and just cross fingers that something goes your way.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Cool. Good luck for race two, Will.
Thank you.
And finally, Luke Rosella, you've already wrapped up the title, but that didn't put any stopper in your pace tonight.
No, it didn't. Thanks, Freddie. Yeah, a bit difficult this tonight. On different pedals I'm usually used to, back on the load cell, so it's not hindering my pace, but I think it's just hindering a bit of consistency and overall comfort with all the ergonomics and whatnot. But yeah, pretty good rebound from what was lap 2 or lap 3. I don't know what Scott was thinking. I think he must have forgot what a brake pedal was. But yeah, great rebound. We pretty much played the master stroke. We knew everyone in front of me had to pit had to make another pit stop and try catch a pretty big margin. So yeah, we just had to do consistent lap times on the hards. It's pretty hard because they're pretty woeful, but yeah, we got there in the end, and really happy with the win.
Yeah, that answers our question, because we're wondering at the back end of that race, and actually we called it from the box that we reckon the strategy would have been pitting when you gone, and knowing the now that you've got the pitted strategy would have been to go to the hards to make sure that it was a fuel game for you and they're not a tie game, and it went that way. It seemed to have gone that way for you then. So I commend you from my point. Not that I'm the strategy master to tell you what to do, but no, that was a good call in the end, and hopefully race two goes a little more to the typical plan of a race.
Yeah, like Kurt said though, haven't really, I haven't had a race on the soft tyres, so I don't know when they're going to last. By the looks of it, it's going to be pretty marginal as usual. So yeah, we're just gonna, as Scafey says, we're just gonna press on hope for the best, Righty.
Awesome. No, that's all you asked for. Great work in the race one, Luke.
Oh, nice one.
Yep, that's all right. I'm having a night. Yeah, great work in race one, Luke, and good luck for race two.
Thanks, Righty. Cheers, mate.
And there's your podium sitters.
Thank you, Rody. And yes, the minute I tell him to bring some energy and things to the broadcast, he inevitably makes a mockery and minces his words. Well done. So that's all right. It's not the first time I think we've seen that happen in ASR broadcasts. And we'll see what's happening in the land of things when we get to the end of it tonight. Hard to believe it's the last broadcast, and we want to make sure everything goes according to plan. We'll take a short commercial break. We'll be back on the other side of this one. Don't go anywhere. ASR's Supercars Championship in 2021 is proudly brought to you by Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. Smith & Sons. Design, plan, construct. Cam Rutledge Electrical. And Matt Harvey Repair and Shoon. Yeah, very short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. There's actually not a lot to show, I think, on the commercials, apart from a big thanks to the sponsors who have been involved in this one for this year. I don't know where we would be without them this year. It's a very, very interesting year for ASR. It's been an interesting year for ASR. The first time we've actually had sponsors and give us a large, I guess, sum of money and funds and prizes as well for everything. So first of all, big thank you to Scott Nolan and the guys and girls for Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. They've done a fantastic job this year to come in as a title sponsor for the first time we've had it for Supercars. The ongoing sponsors that have been around for a long time as well, Cam Rutledge Electrical, Matt Harvey Repair and Shoon. They've always been out there as well. And a lot of the signage that's been around this year, which is carried over in good faith by the ASR crew from last year. So Peter Thrower and the guys and girls over in New Zealand for Beyond Electrical. Daniel Cox Designs, who's painted a fair few liveries this year as well. A big shout out to Kiwi and to Flood. For Endurance Chat. They've been around the track since the Bathurst 500 last year. They were also title sponsors for the second half of the GT3 season this year. And the big one, the really two big ones that I need to give out is a huge thank you to Scott and Michael from Penrite and Ryco respectively. Those guys have done a phenomenal job in coming on board to sponsor the Enduro Cup for 2021 and have actually got a really nice prize pack and kitty coming from New Zealand for everybody that was involved and won an award this year for the voting and the end of awards, which we're going to have that live stream in about a week and a little bit. So Sunday week, keep an eye out for the live stream, and good to have everybody come along and just have a relax and a good chat. And we're going to hand out some prizes and some awards. And Roddy, there's going to be some interesting ones in there, I think.
There is, yeah. We the survey closed on Sunday night. Sunday just gone, and we went through. Yeah, there's some of the more serious end of the scale, the typical, best drive, best livery. Then there's the other end. I think there was, from memory, there was an award for the unluckiest driver, which is not an award you want to go out there and try and win because it's not a good position to be in. But no, as with last year, there'd be a good mix of the sort of serious awards you'd see, say like a Supercars gala and the stuff you'd see if you went out racing in, say, a racing dirt track with some mates on a Friday night once a month. So no, it's a good mix, and yeah, some really good awards in there that really reward some stuff we want to see around ASR as well.
Yeah,
so it'll be a really good night.
I agree, and I think most of the individual awards that were on offer have actually got a prize attached to them. So very, very surprising that we actually had enough to go round, which is great, and a couple of small items left over as well. Of course, it's hard to award things like best livery and certain team awards for like best team and things like that when liveries are a little bit different or been painted by somebody that's not the person who's been driving the car, and a few other things as well. So there's a little bit of interesting times ahead. And of course, we've got the fun awards, like you said. There's the one for the most unluckiest driver of the year and a few things as well. So a little bit of stuff to go under the bridge between now and the end of the season, which is very, very fast approaching. What's also approaching is qualifying session number 2. You heard that right. Look at them all. They're all the big line up there. There they are, all the way down the back as well. There's plenty of them just sort of all lined up and ready to go. The last qualifying session of the year. Hard to believe that it's taken us this long to get here. Green flag, and come on, Dane, get a move on. Thank you very much. There you go. Everybody's on the move. So that was interesting. For a minute, Liccardo didn't know that the session had gone green.
Yeah, I don't know whether Dane was off looking at something else or just, I don't know, maybe trying to get a start or something, but you don't really... There's places to practice your start in the pit lane when you're ahead of the queue at the start of qualifying is not really the time to sit there and delay, but he's gone through, and I think most cars are getting out. I think the only guys not with him in the lane, a couple of the CRF, almost CRE cars.
Just about everybody's out, I think, at the moment. There's a big long lineup. Good to see that the guys that didn't finish race 1 back out there as well. So Freakish is back out there on the track. He, of course, had that big incident with Will Devenish, which put him out of commission, and that was actually ended up being an engine failure out of all of that as well. So that gives us a bit more clarity about what happened to him. Only man not on the track, Kurt Stenberg. So all the CRE cars are out, all the other cars are out. So there's a little bit of bragging rights to play out here, which we probably need to cover off. Sorry, a few little issues there with the mic cutting in and out. Something's going on here in this section of the house. I'm not sure what's going on, but anyway, we've worked it all out now. Watching Dane Liccardo, the Freakish has come around to start his lap. Dane Liccardo is the first man to start a flying lap. This is going swimmingly for a final broadcast of the year. The pole position award hangs in the balance for 2021. Will Devenish and Luke Rosella have the pole position split between them at the moment. 7 pole positions apiece, so 14 of the 19 pole positions to date, followed by Pete Savage with 3 and Kurt Stenberg with 2. So if if Devenish or Rosella can get this last pole position here tonight, then that will give them the pole position bragging rights award heading into the awards night in a week and a little bit. Or if someone else can get a pole position award, then they'll have to share that honour. And let me put it to you this way, I don't think they want to be sharing an award.
No, I wouldn't see Luke and Will wanting to share one, no. The interesting one that really would spice things up is if Kurt were to come from, I say essentially the back, because he wasn't out there last we looked, if he even come to the back and go to the pole, which would end up tying as an 8-8-3-3, or was it 8-8? Yeah, I don't know. No, it wasn't 8-8. I don't know. There's math in there. It would end up tying it
somewhere
up as, it would end up tying. Oh, sorry, no, 8. Yeah, it would be 8-8-3-3. It would end up tying up the numbers as equal first and equal third.
It would indeed.
That said, I would still the driver I see most likely to get a pole if it's not Luke Rosella is Tim Redmond.
Yeah, well, this man here, so Will Devenish probably is looking for one here. He's on a lap now, an 11.4. So still not quite the numbers that we saw punched out in qualifying 1. But at the moment, he's the man at the top of the pile from Brendan Ross, Hans Brunswick, Brenton Foley, Dane Liccardo. So they are the ones at the moment. Luke Rosella got a track violation on his first flying lap and already 3.5 tenths to the good at sector number 2. And at the moment, he is setting, he set a purple sector 1 and a purple sector 2. So that's where we lie at the moment. And Tim Redmond has now gone to the top of purple sector 3, 111.3. So the numbers are slowly advancing, but I think we're about to get a fairly decent number punched out here by champion-elect.
Yeah, he was having a good pace. Actually, he had Burko just behind him. He was saying a little bit.
There it
well.
goes, 10.9.
He's gone 4/10 to the better, so that puts him into the 10s, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, so 10.9 is the mark for Rosella now. Devonish set a personal best in Sector 1, but he has had a track violation in Sector 2 coming through the final corner now. Freakish pops up into position 5. Cheese into position 8. They've improved their times. They're both under the 1:12 barrier. There goes Devonish. There's confirmation he's been pinged for a track violation. Stenberg now out on the circuit. Every car bar Luke Rosella currently on track.
Yeah, with a 4/10s gap, it almost, I wouldn't say he's not going to come out again, but it seemed to be very much of a one and done. It seemed to be a case of, right, I got the lap, I've hit the target lap I wanted to, I'm going to go put my feet up and pour a cuppa.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting for me here, I think Will Devonish has been on a run of about 3 consecutive laps here now, so I'm keeping an eye on him. He's actually was fractionally down on Rosella at Sector 1, and his lap sector time was a 21 flat. He wasn't that far away at all, and now he's up on the pole time, skates it, whacks the wall, gone. That's it. He was in the zone there too. He was really looking good at the Sector 2 split, but just overcommitted into the braking zone for the second chicane, and it all went wrong.
Yeah, the next driver on a lap up there is Tim Redmond. He's currently sitting second. He is better his PB. Interestingly, better than his PB through that second sector, but not better than the pole time, despite the gap in his PB being a lot better. So second sector is coming alive for him, but he is still going to just fall in behind that. So they have made a big indent already into Luke's lap. Tim, last lap through was a 1:11.075. Big yellow out of the last corner with Lockie locked on the inside, but he will get to the line, and that's going to put him...
Advanced his number, but didn't actually improve the position. So 66 thousandths of a second is all that remains between the top 2 drivers there. So you're right, lowering the numbers slowly, but I think probably, as Tomo runs off the road here, keep an eye on Redmond to see if he's got enough to press on, if that's actually upset him, because Sector 1 comes up right about here, and he's just there or thereabouts. So I think he'll probably continue to press on for this lap. Kurt Stenberg was 4/10 of a second down, second sector split, so this is good enough for him to launch up into position 4 as it would stand right now, and then we'd have a time from all the things. Nope, not quite. He's made a meal of it at the hairpin.
Yeah, looked like maybe a front lock, even maybe a rear lock, but either way the car just didn't want to make the apex, and a bit too much throttle the other side meant the rear kept turning. So this has been turned into an out lap for him again.
Yep.
Instead of banker, it's only a 1:12, and actually he's
bailing.
Dropping.
He's bailing. He's bailing on the lap to go. I'm not sure. If he gets out now, he'll have another chance to try and set another lap, but he is leaving the pits again. I can see it here. So a number of these drivers have already been out and trying to get themselves ready to go. So Brent Foley's ready for probably what would be a 3-lap run, given that the time is there for it, and probably the same for Dane Liccardo as well. And they're coming across, I think, Stenberg, and a bit further up ahead of him is Darren Kemp, who's currently P19 on the road. He's actually he's on an out lap too as well. So both of them are on out laps ahead of Liccardo and Foley.
All right, Luke's just gone through and improved. He's now done a 1:10.8, which puts him just over, almost nearly...
tenth and a half clear, yeah.
10th and a half clear, yeah. Interestingly, the driver in third at the moment, and...
Oi, Foley! He's wide, and he's kept it under control. You see, here go. That's how you do it. When you when you want to go sideways, and it all happens. That's how you make it happen. So there's being flamboyant, and there's being good, I think, is the way to put it. And that was being very good for Foley. He managed to recover that well.
But yeah, I was going to say actually, as I was just saying, Kurt improved. He's gone up to...
He's about to go up the order here as well. He's just ahead of Brent Foley on the track here. So yeah, correct. So Stenberg is actually starting a flying lap. He's starting a flying. Yeah, he started a flying lap.
The point I was going to make, and I'll do it before I get interrupted by someone changing position again. Foley in third, bit of a surprise considering the pace he's had tonight.
Big surprise for me at the moment is Freakish. He's currently set up in the garage.
In fourth.
Yeah, so he's right up the order at the moment, and that's a stonkingly good lap at 11.4, and just ahead of Devonish at an 11.4.89. As Cheese now goes up to position 6, so the couple of the guys in the live chat got this right earlier on in the night. The Kiwis have done their homework. on a lot of this at the moment, and their qualifying pace is really good. Redmond's advanced the number at Sector 1, so it was actually a purple Sector 1 for Tim Redmond. So let's keep an eye on this lap for a little bit. Actually not quite purple sector, sorry, I do apologise, but he was up on the Sector 1 time, so potentially going to upset the cart here. A tenth and a half now to the good, and very tidy through the second chicane. This is looking very handy for Redmond if he can keep this going. Where is the Synergy Sim Racing Mustang at the moment? He's coming across the line.
He's getting ready to go. He's getting ready to go for his final lap, so he'll see that time come through, but he won't see it till after he starts his lap. So not sure whether that's going to affect how hard Luke's going to push. He's going to put his 10/10 in as well. It depends on how much Luke's got left in reserve.
And Redmond will get another lap as well, so Redmond can afford to press on here as well. He was on an out lap, and he presses onto the line, and he goes fractionally quicker, but not to the pole. So he's got to go again.
He lost it in that third sector.
Has Rosella had an issue? I think Rosella's got some sort of game gremlin here as well. So Rosella's not going to be able to go for another lap. So this is important for Redmond. He's got to make this one count while Rosella's down and out for the count here.
Oh yeah, he's only just of his PB through the first sector, so he's still in with a shot. He's going to have to pull something out. The second of the last lap through was pretty stonking as well. That's where he made up an extra half a tenth. He's going to have to pull that out though. The other thing as well we're not going to see is we're not actually going to see the time he's going to make up, because he's currently the man on pole.
Yeah, because Rosella has exited the game here, so this is the important thing. Rosella is currently the man that's on pole, so the time that he had to beat was a 10.8. And I don't think he's going to do it just judging by the numbers. I mean, he might be up on his own time here, but he's really got to push on and make this lap count. So we're watching him for the moment. He is the only man that can improve at the moment. Everybody else is done and dusted. Redmond to the line, and it's a 10.857. Now, the question I need to work out is what Rosella did. We're going to have to figure this one out, so hold with us, folks, because this is going to be mighty close between the 43 and the 55, so we will cut away from this. As it stands...
No.
Not quite.
No, he hasn't got it. Luke did a 10.813.
There you go. So he comes up 0.04 of a second short, Tim Redmond, and that means that the pole award for 2021 does go to Luke Rosella. So let's recap the order. So it's actually Rosella from Tim Redmond, then Brenton Foley. Kurt Stenberg got himself up to 4th in the end. Will Devonish and Hans Brunswick. So a number of the fast guys came to the fore late on in that one. So that's your top 6. Freakish 7th, Stancliffe 8th, Cheese 9th, and Steve Burko is the last man in the 10.
Some really good laps in there in the end, yeah. Foley ended up still sitting in 3rd, ahead of Kurt Stenberg. He hasn't been faster than Kurt since his championship year in 2019, which Kurt wasn't here for. So that's, especially as a PBF driver, and obviously big fan, that's a sight for sore eyes. Will Devonish in 5th, Hans Brunswick up in 6th. He's now had a race under his belt, so he's got some pace on him. And then the rest of the top 10, Freakish sitting in 7th in the end. Not as good as he'd shown early on, but that was without some of those drivers coming in, but still 7th. Very good result for him. And yeah, I'll have to quickly check the results as the rest of the top 10. But no, some really good results in that session.
Yeah, I agree. Some very, very positive results coming out of that one. Now, speaking of results, we haven't shown the team standings for this round, coming into this round either. So we'll do that now while we've got a bit of downtime in the break, thanks to Smith & Sons Renovations and Extension. So this is how it stood coming into the night. So CRE Race Engineering at the top, followed by Synergy Sim Racing and Loose Sim Sport. Now, just judging on the mental math that we've done here, with Rosella getting 300 points and CRE Race Engineering with Will Devonish getting a nice chunk of points for his second place finish, which I think he get 276 from memory. If I go and have a look at the numbers and the answer, you get 138. Sorry, it's 150 points to Rosella, apologies, and 138 to Will Devonish, plus Lockie Lock also is racing for CRE tonight as well, and he finished around about, I think it was 15th or 16th, so there's about 60 points there. So judging on those numbers, that's enough for Synergy Sim Racing to have their chances of the top step thwarted, and CRE Race Engineering will have team honours for this one. So
Yeah.
there you go, and that covers all of that as well. And the team pole award, of course, that one can't be usurped there, even though Rosella's got 8. The pole award between Devonish and Savage sharing 10 poles apiece is definitely the way it's gone. And now that Synergy Sim Racing can't be beaten for race wins either. Rosella's got 8. The next nearest is Stenberg on 6 for Trans-Tasman. So that's how all that one's going to pan out. We go back to the teams, so the driver's standing. So this is how it was at the start of the night. So let's just give you a quick update as to how that top 10 actually sits at the moment. Now, the order hasn't changed. So the top 10 on your screen there has not changed in terms of where they are. Rosella's moved along to 25.92. Redmond along to 21.81. So Redmond is insulated quite well from second place as it stands at the moment, from third place man Stenberg, barring a mistake. Devonish and Stenberg have closed up a little bit more, so there's now only 30 points between them. Kurt on 20.82 and Devonish on 20.52. So that little margin has narrowed a bit, but even Will has alluded to the fact that it's going to be a fairly hard mountain to climb to get any points back out of that one. NZ Snipes has closed in on the back of Peter Savage for 5th and 6th, so there's probably going to be a change there between now and the end of the night. So Savage still remains on 15.34. Snipes has now moved to 15.07, or Kane Gray there. Termo for Curtis Agmanis, he's now gone to 1482 in position 7.
He could actually pass
Peters.
He could actually pass Savage as well. Yes.
Correct. He could potentially pass Pete Savage as well. Brenton Foley to 14.04. Lewis Wedding remains on 12.06 and Cam Rutledge on 11.58. So he's within earshot of passing Lewis Wedding for 9th in that one as well. The pole award, that's now been settled. So Rosella now changes the man there. So he now has 8. And the fastest lap award. So Kurt Stenberg and Will Devonish shared the fastest laps of the races coming into the night. Rosella has 3, so he can't challenge. Redmond picked up the fastest lap in that last race, so he's upset the apple cart there a bit. So between Devonish and Stenberg, if they can sneak the fastest lap of the race in this one, or if one of them can, then that's an outright pole or prize award for them in terms of how things go with supercars. So that's an interesting little side note in this whole 2021 season. The season which is winding down, Rhodey, which doesn't have very much time left in this warm-up session. And then we're on to the final race for not only the night, but for supercars for the season. I don't know what to say. I'm looking at this from, I guess, 2 sides of the fence, or both sides of the fence as they call it. One, I'm sort of a little bit upset that the season's over and that the broadcasting's over because they've had some really good racing and we like calling these things, and it's probably been one of the best seasons for ASR to date. At the same time, I'm sort of happy that a lot of things are ending because I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break. My vocal cords are looking forward to a bit of a break, and having come off the Island Magic event, Phillip Island, a week ago, it's been a long couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm bouncing into even funnier that it's more concisely put for me because, yeah, I'm excited because I'm back in the box again, but I'm very much having to temper that off because this is the last time I'm in the box, unless I get gifted in for Floody for Super Series again. That's the next time I'm in the box until, well, I haven't confirmed what anything really looks like for next year, but I have indicated that I'd like to be back in broadcasting for Supercars next year, but that's not going to be, that's basically the end of summer. So we've got, best part of 3 months till that's starting all up again. But no, I'm happy, not so much from my point of view, but from the point of view of yourself and of Higo and of Lewis and of Rossi, and of the guys who really put in a lot of weight, not only over the last sort of 10 to 12 months, or sort of 10 months during the season, this 2021, but putting in a lot of grunt work over the summer to give us the Mustang and some of the other improvements that came to the Supercars Championship, not only Supercars, some of the other series as well. But coming off of that to now transition into a summer where not only is about due for you guys to have a break, it's actually we're actually now in a position somewhat for most people in the country where you're actually able to go and legally have a break. So I'm happy for you guys that you're able to do that. And I think at this moment, any sort of summer plans is just going to be me and Lewis pottering around doing some very lightweight stuff as we sort of get a bit of a break in over summer and start to gear it for next year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's, I think the important thing, I guess, or the best way to word it is the building blocks for 2022 are in place. There was a lot of effort this year to get those building blocks in place. A lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of late nights, a lot of meetings. And I think there's a lot of people that are looking forward to having a bit of a break. I guess that the drivers are, definitely the admin team is as well. I guess one thing that I probably will say, I guess before we go to green flag here, Rody, with everybody just sort of starting to get themselves lined up on the grid, is there is a little bit of, I guess, an elephant in the room to address. And I mean, to quote, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but to quote Taylor Swift, the haters are going to hate, and there have been some of them this year. And I think basically with what ASR has been able to do this year, they can continue to hate all they want, because this is still one of the best, if not the best, Australian-based sim racing community going around, or Australasian community going around at the moment. End of subject.
Exactly. No, I can't really add any more to that, but that adds any more info to that. No, you're absolutely right. And yeah, I think they continue to hate, but like it's yeah, we can live rent free in their brain. But
correct.
We're putting together a pretty good job, and I'll hand over to you for the very last grid for the season.
Thank you very much. Luke Rosella, champion-elect. He's got it all right with all the strategy cues in race 1, and he's going to be off the pole again for race 2. He's got to try and convert that start, though. That's the important thing. He won't want to do what he did in race number 1 again this time around. Second on the road, Tim Redmond for Kiwi Sim Sports. He's got a little mountain to climb, I guess, as well, and a little bit of redemption to try and go into for this race, having led a good portion of the lap. Got to get that start right again as well. Brenton Foley, position 3 in the Jamie Whincup Farewell Tribute livery. Position 3, one of his best starts starting positions rather of the season. Alongside the outgoing champion, Kurt Stenberg, for Trans-Tasman Racing, car number 1 for the very last time. Will Devonish, position 5 for CRE Race Engineering, still in the hunt for 3rd overall, but needs a fair bit to go his way in this one. Hans Brunswick in the 010 PBF Roadies Photos racing car. Freakish, one of the best positions we've seen him start in Supercars in 2021, and going to build on that. That's 7th place for the man in car 131. Scott Stancliffe, 8th for Kiwi Sim Sports. Cheese in 9th, so there's a good chunk of Kiwis in the top 10. And Steve Burko, the first of the loose Sim Sport forwards, in position 10. Termo is first of the CRE Motorsport Commodores in 11th. Brendan Ross, the second of the PBF Race Engineering Commodores, in 12th. Dane Liccardo is going to start this one out of 13th, along with Peter Thrower next door to him for the Kiwi Sim Sports dev team. NZ Snipes a bit further back in the order this time around, along with Cam Rutledge. Lockie Lock in his second wildcard appearance in as many rounds in Pete Savage's number 58 for CRE Race Engineering. Justin Cecil doing the Team Harvey Norman Mustang Proud for Ben Hall this round, stepping into that one very graciously while Ben's away at Bathurst, like a couple of the other drivers are this week. Matt Cecil in the Penrite number 26, the David Reynolds liveried Kelly Grove Racing. Nathan Higginson in the HME Team Autodesk Commodore, and then Darren Kemp is at the back as we get ready to start this one for the final time. Looks like there's just one or two drivers just slightly out of position here as we focus in on the lights and wait for things to happen. Yep, there's definitely somebody out of position here for this one, and now they've been sorted. Good to see. The lights are on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are away for this one. Who gets the whole shot off the start this time? It looks like it's Redmond yet again, and indeed it is. They come racing toward the bridge. Redmond has the whole shot for the second time, but this time Rosella is right with him.
Not only Redmond, Hard's in the background. He's already up to 4th.
Oh, there's contact!
Down the inside.
There's
one of the Nissans. Freakish.
Yeah, Freakish again, and I think there was a couple of cars that got contact with the fence there as well. Redmond goes through to resume the lead of this one, having just fought it off, but just having a bit of an unusual look there. I think the Kiwis had some trouble hitting the walls. Rosella now goes back through to the lead of the motor race, just having a little bit of a late-minute look here on the Smith & Sons replay. What happened to car 131? I think it was, here we go. Termo got into Cheese, which turned him into Freakish and then sent him across the road. So that's what happened there. So Termo was a little bit late on the brakes and ultimately turned a couple of cars around. So we've seen that on the, oops, sorry, we didn't get on the replay on your one there. We forgot to switch the video, but we've gone back and had a look at that one, and that's what happened.
Yeah, so while you're missing that, back on my pictures, Luke Rosella's got through to the lead after Tim brushed the wall. Kurt's actually got past him as well. Hans Brunswick trying to go in the outside in the last corner, and knowing Hans, he could achieve it, trying to go on the outside for a run down to turn 1 and turn 2 on Tim Redmond. Tim Redmond, solid start, but he's not quite holding up to the pressure.
Where's Will Devonish gone in all of this? I think he got caught up in that incident a little bit late earlier on lap 1. Yeah, he's gone back to 12th, so he's had a real shocker in this one. Again, through no fault of his own. A little bit of contact with that whole episode down here at this turn as Freakish is around, and all that really good qualifying results unfortunately gone to his head a little bit, I think, with this one.
Yeah, yeah, he did get a bit of assistance in that first lap through, and looked like he might have got a bit of an assistance actually from one of the Kiwi Sim Sports Commodores, which might get looked at later on after the race. But yeah, not a good start for Freakish.
No, definitely not. The law in the same Discord. Oh, Turmo around off the final, off the first chicane as well. So already a few people starting to push the limits. No safety cars just yet, but everybody trying to fight their way through this pack. The top 5 have actually broken away, and that leaves Dane Liccardo now at the head of a loose Sim Sport. 1, 2, 4, positions 6 and 7 on the road. So these guys, Burko and Dane, have had a really good start. They've both moved up several spots in the running order. Liccardo's moved up 7, Burko's moved up 3, with all the shenanigans going on around them. And you can see there's Foley just exiting bottom of the shot. And in front of him, there's a car in the fence. Is that Lockie Lock? Yeah, Lockie Lock at the back. Lockie,
have a look.
yeah,
That actually.
we will get this one on the replay. So here we go. The Smith & Sons replay. So he was boxing on with Freakish here. So there was a little bit of contact at the hairpin. I'm wondering, has he closed the door on somebody here, or what's happened? No, he's braking in a straight line. Round the final corner he goes, and Higginson there's a little slight innocuous move. I think the Higginson Autodesk car just moved over a touch, probably just on the bumps, and made a little bit of contact.
Yeah, I think Higo might have had just enough room. That's hard to tell from the angle that we get on broadcast as to whether he had enough room on the outside or not. Whether Higo was squeezed, whether Higo maybe came across a bit. Again, that's another one for the stewards after the race to potentially look at.
Yeah, that's a little bit sad as well. It was very early on in the race, and of course no safety cars just yet to catch the field back up. So that puts Lockie Lock right off the back of the pack. All right, here we go. Fastest laps of the race are starting to pile in here. So it was immediately set by Rosella and then immediately reset by Stenberg. So it's now an 11.9 on the probably lap 3. So everything up to temperature, and they're now starting to kick away. So Rosella and Stenberg, off they go. Plenty of air gap now to Hans Brunswick behind. So he's got Redmond for company, and Foley hanging around like a bad smell behind a pair of them.
Yeah, again, you mentioned Wiki, but not that these two are likely to box on the same way that the leaders were in the last race. But yeah, Tim's got the pace to keep it up with Luke on a qualifying run, but he's not quite doing so well, and you've seen something.
Yeah, Foley, a little bit of sideways moment coming through the Courier chicane. And Dane Liccardo having to cut the second chicane behind them as well. So he's making some good time, but he's had a little bit of a lock up there and cut the chicane. There he is, back of the shot, very top of the screen. And on they go. So there's been a few developments in this one. So a couple of the packs have broken up. Devonish now got through to P9. Stancliffe now heads Cheese and Snipes in 10th, 11th and 12th. So they've fallen down the order a little bit. And there's Freakish, there's Thrower. So there's 5 Kiwi cars in a row here. There you go, look at that. Commodore followed by 4 Nissans. And then the only other Kiwi car that's in the race is up in 4th place, Redmond.
You almost couldn't have done better if you tried to get all the Kiwi cars in one shot.
No, I think this is the first time. I think they'll be looking, go back through the broadcast and going, can we get a copy of that, please? Oh, he's very deep there too. He's very deep there too, Stancliffe. Almost made the fence and has put Cheese right on the back of him, but no, there's no room this time to go through on the run down to turn number 3.
Yeah, the main Kiwi driver in Stancliffe giving both the development and the underdevelopment drivers a bit of a lesson in how to drive defensively.
That's it. This is 10th through 14th, all in the same shot, surprisingly. So they might have done their homework in qualifying. They've got to now do their homework in the race. So there's going to be plenty of communication between all three of the Kiwi teams to work out who's coming in and when they're coming in. And their compatriot is now starting to give Brunswick the real hurry up here. He's having to take some defensive lines, but importantly for Redmond, he's not able to get the drive off the corners at the right times he needs it. Like he just tried there at turn 13 and just closed the margin down, but Hans wasn't quite fully clear of the corner yet, so Redmond wasn't able to make the pass. Now he has a look down the inside here at 2, and he should have him comfortably and leaves a bit of room for him, and does. Good job and good pass.
Yeah, that was a good pass, and that's a tricky corner to be around the outside because the outside line is so much wider than the inside line around that corner. So Hans probably saw that coming and backed out of that to make sure he could try and get back towards the apex somewhat and try and keep Foley off from behind. Good pace and still for Foley in this race, actually. He is back to 5th, I think from qualifying in 4th, but he's still keeping up with these guys pretty well. And yeah, pretty good turn of pace from him in the second race.
Yeah, definitely good turn of pace from him as well. A little bit of boxing on was going down here a few seconds ago. Termo, who was recovering, I think, has just gotten past his counterpart Cam Rutledge, and CRE Motorsport cars swap positions. And that allowed Matt Cecil to get through as well in the number 26. So he's made a gain from the from 19th up to 18th, just plodding along here. As you said, Lockie Lock is unfortunately the biggest loser out of all of this, with the incident at the top of the start-finish straight a couple of laps ago with that spin and contact with appears to be with Nathan Higgins. Here goes Termo down the inside of Darren Kemp at the hairpin. That's a clean pass. Super 2 combatants that know each other fairly well and know each other's driving style. And I think Kempy was most insistent on the Nissan tonight as well. He was talking about, I think we've seen him in rounds gone past. He's driven the ASR Mustang on a couple of occasions as well in his wildcard appearances. I think Phillip Island, where he put up a really robust defence of position he was in the Mustang. He's going to try and snatch this spot back from Termo as well down here at turn 2, and Termo leaves him the space. Kempy was a bit slow through the corner apex and can't capitalise.
No, I imagine in terms of the car choice for Kempy, it might come down to, obviously the cars are powerised. There is no speed performance advantage in one car or the other, but I know, for example, I've heard some people mention, I believe it's the ZB. I know I haven't driven it myself. The visibility out the front of that isn't the greatest. Very narrow, a very short windscreen for what it feels like. And it might just come down to a simple preference that Kempy prefers the ergonomics of the car, but he's now got one of those Mustangs, which is Matt Cecil all up here over his trumpet.
Yeah, I think a few guys prefer the Nissan purely, again, from, yeah, as you said, looking at the front windscreen, it's quite large and very well designed for that. Also, with where the shift lights are, I think it does some wonders for them as well. I know the Mustang's got the separate shift light setup. The ZB's got a very different setup again. But both, I think the Mustang's got a fairly narrow opening. I mean, if we go on, we'll see if we can get an onboard shot from one of the Commodores. So here's the Tim Redmond car. You can see here there's a fairly decent chunk of real estate you can see out that window. Then we go on board with the Nissan for Darren Kemp, and then you can see there's a lot more real estate there. The banner that's usually across the top of the car is actually almost on the roof. That's how different it is. And then we go back to the Dane Liccardo on board here. You can see that there's a very, very, very narrow gap out the front windscreen. So again, very difficult to see out of. So 3 different schools of thought, and I think with the Mustang, you've got to sit a little bit lower in the car to really get a true picture of just how, what you need to see, the real estate parts of the track you need to find.
Yeah. And I think we had this. I think Mitch last year having issues with the Super 2 cars, the same issue. And it's one of the things you don't think about really if you jump behind the wheel of a car and actually spend some time in it and yeah, picking yourself positionally, that sort of stuff. Also, what sort of references you've got outside the car to know where the edges of your car are, much as you use in real life racing. Although we're not trying to do a Safeway shopping centre car parking here, we're just trying to get around a racetrack. But the same sort of methods apply. Yeah,
correct. It's all about the visibility. I think that's a lot of things they're doing in the transport industry at the moment. A lot of the new trucks, they're trying to find ways to increase visibility around things. Like especially, I know the brand new next generation Volvos, which we've actually been fortunate to secure 20 of up in New South Wales, and another 6 have just come down recently to Victoria. The A pillars you can see on these cars, effectively what they are near the wing mirrors. The A pillars on the trucks are actually the narrowest they've ever been, and the front windscreen wraps around a little bit. So there's all sorts of changes they're making there. Even things such as going from the big side mirrors that people are used to seeing to what they call mirror cameras, and then putting those mirrors themselves on the insides of the trucks, not just so much from a streamline point of view, but from a visibility point of view. So a lot of aesthetics, a lot of visibility issues, but also a lot of safety innovations, I guess, as well, with crumple zones and all that sort of stuff. Have come a long way since the days of the early car manufacturing.
Absolutely. We'll come back to what's happening on track. I think I'm just trying to actually sort of battle Rossi.
Yeah, well, Redmond hasn't been able to sneak away from Hans too much, but he's not really gaining on the cars ahead either. You just mentioned Brendan Ross. So where's he in all of this?
He just left the lane, so I'm not sure what's happened to him to take a green flag pit stop this early in the race.
Gone a lap down too, Brendan Ross. So I think there's been an incident somewhere for him. You're right, he did come into the lane. It'll be unsighted to us as to what's happened with him, but I think he's been off the road somewhere, had to come in and repair some damage, and that's way, way, way too early to make a stop. And like I said, not only that, he's gone a lap down inside of 9 laps, so that's a concern.
The pit lane transit time under green flag running is quite long here. We saw this with the time that on track that the drivers that were leading the race in race 1 halfway through, being Rosella being Redmond and Stenberg, how far they dropped back. Obviously, Kurt came back through, Tim not quite so much, but they lost best part of half a minute relative to the cars around them. It's a very long pit lane for the length of the track. Yeah,
the stop line where you have to get down to the 40k an hour speed limit is just behind the start and finish track here. It's off to the left just here. So as Higginson and Termo exit, it's literally behind the thank you from the ASR crew banner back there, and it's a long lane, and it's a long narrow lane. It is the longest pit lane of the year, I think, from memory. Just doing the rough things inside my head. Actually, probably slightly longer than Calder Park.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably one of the longest pit lanes on the modern supercars calendar. Calder being the exception, but Calder being a historic track where IRL supercars wouldn't have measured that and counted out. But no, some really long pit lanes, and for the speed of the track as well. It knocks you back quite a bit. So,
correct.
Hopefully, a couple of drivers looking for that safety car, and one of them now will be Brendan Ross.
Yeah, I think he needs it to get back on that lap for sure. He needs the safety car to come out now, but on top of that, he's also going to have to stop again. That's the problematic thing for Rossi, is he's going to have to come into the lane again. He will not be able to get home from here unless he basically fuel saves. It becomes basically the Steve Bolger fuel whispering type of thing from GT3. There's also still this Kiwi train. It's actually gotten a little bit closer at the moment. Stancliffe's starting to come under a bit of pressure from the underdeveloped teammate Cheese, and then Thrower, Snipes and Freakish all on a line there. Then it going back to the battle we were just watching between Higginson and Termo. Now, I want to keep an eye on them just to see if they're gaining any time over the Kiwis in front. So they all went through in mid-14s, and Higginson and Termo actually did high 13s. So they actually are gaining on these cars at the moment that are on screen. That will be interesting for how the pit stop sequences work out, because there's 3 different teams for the Kiwis in this one. 3 cars will have to come out of this train to make stops on if they want to do it on the same lap, and then the other 2 will have to come out on the other lap. So there possibly could be a jumping in pit lane by Termo and Higginson here if they can get their skates on.
Yeah, quite possibly. It could be on a pit game. They're going to have to re-strategize, though, you're right, because the Kiwi Simsports main, the Commodores, they're good. Tim's up in the top 5 and Scotty's back leading this train here. Positionally, they're not that far apart, but time-wise, they're probably pretty close to far enough apart that if one pitted, the other could pit right behind and not get overlap. But obviously, the same doesn't apply for both the development Nissan Kiwi teams. They're going to have to pit staggered and run one lap off strategy to each other, and they have to coordinate that. But yeah, in all that kerfuffle of sorting themselves out, and the fact they're all still racing other and trying not to run each other off the road. I'm not sure there's any communication there, but actually there wouldn't be. They're not the same chat. But Termo looked like he went past, but he held the inside line. So these guys don't want to do this because that's going to help them catch, and Higgos probably realised that and has gone, well, if Termo's quick, it's probably best for me to slot behind him and pick up on his wake.
Yeah, correct. And I think you're right. Higginson realised that pretty quickly. Just like, you know what, I've made a slight mistake here, and Termo's tried to go the other way around, but Termo definitely has a little bit more speed on board car 51 at the moment, so they need him to try and play some catch-up here. You can see that the margin's just hovering at 3 seconds, so it's just there or thereabouts. They're getting up to the pit stop sequences probably in the next 5 laps, so they need to be making ground. You can see here Termo's already kicked away from Higginson, so clearly the extra pace is there. Now, the other thing that's interesting I noticed too, in the last couple of laps, Redmond has managed to kick away from Brunswick. There he goes, just around the kink in this little chute here. So Brunswick has not been able to go with him, but whether or not he's gone into a conservation mode or not, that's the other question. Is maybe he's trying to go slightly, maybe a lap or two longer, have some slightly better tyres toward the end of the race. But either way, good recovery from Brunswick from race 1 to get to where he was. A good qualifying effort in race 2, and got a hold on to Foley as well. Liccardo behind them was, it looks like he's a little bit quicker, especially through sector 1 in this lap. He got a track violation on a previous tour, but I think he's just starting to close the gap down a little bit too. So don't think about what's going on just with these two guys just yet. Liccardo might very well mix it up with them through the stops as well.
I mean, if we go off the live timing, Dane's best in this session is a 12.2, another 12 with a 12.2 for Foley and a 12.3 for Hahn. So Hahn's not quite having the pace during the race as the race wears on. He was probably maybe hoping we'd get a few more safety cars by now. But talking about the front runners, Tim Redmond has did set the best lap with a 12.5, but his last lap through was that best lap, so that
he's
12.5.
Closing him down too. Here you go. The gap is visual now for Redmond.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, he was a tenth a lap quicker the last lap through. He's now 2/10 a lap quicker this current last lap. And yeah, these guys, whether they're battling or whether they're just running a little train, either way, they're not running as quick as Redmond.
No, not at the moment. You can see here Redmond got a really good sight on them at the moment, and it's only 2 seconds, just a hair under 2 seconds, so it's come down. It was about 3 and a little bit about 4 laps ago. He's really started to find a second wind here on these tyres, so he's found a rhythm, found a groove, and now the important piece is, what do these drivers do ahead of him? Are they going to stop? No. So they go for another 2-up, and they need to get to at least lap 17 or 18 before they can probably pull the trigger as a half-distance one. It is a little bit marginal. Let's check the times out. Stenberg at a 12.6, Rosella at a 12.5, Redmond at a 12.7, so it went back the other way on that lap.
I think Redmond is just happy to put himself nearby at least. Maybe still stay trying off back in case the two in front get into a bit of a squabble. As you mentioned with the first race, maybe the wicket position is the one he's trying to go for. But I think the advantage Tim's got, yeah, they're all now going to race under the belt, but it wasn't really a full race as it was. It was just a get lucky for the first half of the race and then have a race.
Pass on here. Foley's gone backwards and Liccardo's got him. So Foley, I think, made a mistake on the previous lap. He had a poor sector 1 that time around, but that was also because of the pass from Liccardo. But I think he had a poor run through the final sector on lap 15, and it put Liccardo right under his rear wing. So that's a clean pass, and up 8 spots from where he started. Very, very nice job. And Foley's starting to slide now too. So I think the tyres are starting to cry enough for Brent. Foley really sideways.
I think I can see. I think he's planning a pit stop, and I suggest Foley's Roman style.
Oh.
If it's one thing, it's not conservative.
No, the car's not happy either, and
I think his left rear's gone.
I think it's gone too. I think you're not. Maybe left rear, maybe.
It'll be a rear of some sort the way that car's twisting around.
Something's not quite right there because it was tracking all sorts of different directions. So he's the first man to bite the bullet here for a pit stop.
He's going to have to stop again unless he's either going to the hards unless he can conserve the tyres, because he's pitted probably 2 laps too early. But
Burko coming with him.
This.
Yep, so Burko coming with him down the lane. That's going to elevate some of the Kiwis through. Now, there's been a little bit of a change here. Here we go. Turmo has caught the Kiwi train, and he's got one of them. Who's that? He's just got past. It looks like it's Freakish.
Yep.
Cheese has gotten past Stancliffe. Likewise, NZ Snipes. That means Stancliffe's gone back to 3rd in the running order. And then comes Turmo, who's just past Freakish. And has got to hang around the outside here. Freakish has got it back. Has fought that position back.
Not quite. He got a
No.
really poor run off the inside, spun the rears up and had a bit of a wobble, so he hasn't quite brought that one back yet. Although he's showing that he's got the pace
Yep.
and he's
Turmo's
made that
down
a go. And we've seen him already in the first race having seemed to be a preferential move for him to have a big dive down the inside at turn 2. So I don't think it's all over yet.
Another change here as well. Liccardo cedes position to Devonish and immediately pulls the trigger on the stop. So he's got to make this go a little bit longer. So Devonish through. And there's another car in the lane there as well, which is Hans Brunswick. So
as is Kurt Stenberg.
And Stenberg too. So Devonish goes up to what is currently P3 on the road. So the stop's starting to play out here at the half distance mark.
Actually, this is going to stuff over Brunswick because Hans and Kurt have got to share a pit boom.
They do indeed. So who was in the lane first though? It actually, you're right. It is, they've got the old AMS side-by-side action going here. But Stenberg's on the wrong side. He's got to go the long way and, yeah, makes it work.
Just managed to wiggle through that one. And that wouldn't have, I think they're actually in the same chat. I'm not sure how planned that would have been. Although I wouldn't be surprised that they are mates. I wouldn't be surprised if Kurt was nice enough to move over a little bit to leave Hans some room.
Yeah,
but,
they're in the same Discord chat, I think I can see.
That could have been worse than it was, but in the end that's worked out pretty well. So Hans has come out in 11th, Kurt in 9th.
Yep. Rosella in as well now too. So here we go. I think the leaders will all be in this lap. So Luke Rosella down to the 40k per hour pit lane speed limit. There's Tim Redmond coming around as well. And it looks like there's going to be the third car in the queue of Will Devonish. So there's Rosella, there's Redmond, there he goes. And the next man I'm expecting to see is going to be Will Devonish coming through the bottom of his shot any second now. There he is.
Yep, the next cars is that whole Kiwi Sim Sports train, including Turmo. And they should, I think most of them are probably coming in.
Yep, here they go. So, well, there's an issue here. So Cheese is in, Snipes goes through, and Thrower goes through. So this is what I was saying before. The 5 Kiwi cars that were all in a queue there, only 2 of them could come on one lap and 3 of them could come on the other because of how it was all working out. Because
no,
Redmond,
Thrower has pitted.
Yeah, Thrower's in, but Thrower and Snipes share the boom, and Cheese and Freakish share the boom. So that's where that's all come into play. And then, in actual fact, Stancliffe probably could have come in that lap if he wanted to as well, because Redmond was a lot further up the order, and he'd well and truly left the lane. And there's been a change here as well. So Rosella has lost out to Kurt Stenberg. Stenberg come out into some clear air and has now managed to put that to good use. Now takes over what is the effective lead of the race, with Snipes and Stancliffe yet to stop.
We missed that all as well, but in the end, the two undeveloped Nissans having to stack in the pit lane. So that's a shame.
Freakish came in there late, so that's...
Yeah, Freakish did come in, so that's a shame. He's stacked. Unfortunately, they didn't do the side-by-side, so they treated that a bit more realistically and actually double stacked.
Brendan Ross at the pit lane entrance has had an issue. So he's tried to get into the lane. We did say he was going to have to stop again because he came in very early and he was already a lap down. He actually got his lap back through the sequence of stops. So what's happened here to Rossi? We're looking at this one on the Smith & Sons replay. And has he just gassed it up too much, or is he something let go here? He's had a little bit of a slide, and I think he's just put the power down a little bit too early. Oh, and that's a hard hit too. I wouldn't be surprised there's some damage there.
I saw 1 or 2 drivers do that in qualifying, a couple of drivers do that in practice as well. Very easy spot because you're really just waiting to get full throttle out of that corner. That double section of corners, you're just sitting there waiting, and it's just the patience game, and you get a bit too excited, especially with used tyres.
The leaders having to contend with Scott Stancliffe here. Sorry, Rody. The leaders are having... Stancliffe has not stopped yet, and he's fighting them tooth and nail here because he knows that Tim Redmond needed to play some catch-up here, and Redmond has actually stopped. There he is in the back of shot, so he'll probably be... I'd imagine Stancliffe's going to be in this lap. Maybe Stancliffe was on the hard tyres, going a little bit longer because he's certainly got some okay pace at the minute. Minute 15 last time around. It's not sort of the drop-off that you would expect from a soft, and he hasn't had a tyre let go either, so I think he's gone to the hards for this one, and then probably going to have a shorter stint on the soft.
Oh, the car's looking quite twitchy now. He's kept going around. I'd say, yeah, maybe on the hards and just the setup isn't quite working for them. I wouldn't be surprised, again, the Kiwis are a smart bunch, whether this was sort of pre-planned for, yes, Tim doesn't necessarily need some help, but it doesn't hurt to put a buffer in anyway. whether that was what's happened or it just so happened that he's been around, because Scott has a full right to fight these guys, as does Snipes ahead of him. They are fighting for position. Yes, there's an argument over who's pit stopped and who haven't, but at the end of the day, this is a fight for position on track.
Correct.
So they have a right to make them earn it. But yeah, this does also happen to play into the hands somewhat, not fully, but somewhat in the hands of Team Redmond.
Yep, and Stancliffe has gone wide at turn 3 there as well, so Redmond will be through. Now, Redmond's lost an awful amount of time through the stops as well. Remember how close he was to Stenberg and Rosella after all of this, and how the stops, before the stops had panned out. He's actually lost time. He's lost track position. He was out to about 2.5 seconds. He's lost about a full second in this one as they continue to blaze on here. Now, Redmond has set a purple sector 1 on that lap, and his sector 2 time was quicker than Stenberg and Rosella ahead of him. So let's keep an eye out for what Redmond does on this particular lap. So there's Snipes. He's going to be in the lane this time around. There he goes. So that's an easy one for Redmond. He doesn't have to contend with the traffic. There's Brunswick as well. So Brunswick has made a small gain on Tin Redmond after all of this as well. Redmond having gone the opposite direction. What's he like from a time point of view? 12.5, so not his best lap, but it was quicker than the two ahead. He was a full second quicker than Rosella. He was 1.1 quicker than Stenberg. So this is going to get interesting in this phase of the race. I've got a funny feeling that Stenberg and Rosella have gone into a little bit of conservation mode, knowing that when Redmond gets to them, they're going to have something to fight with.
I'd say so, yeah.
As well as trying to fight each other, they've gone into a conservation mode. As hard as that is, I got a funny feeling that that's what's going on.
Again, those two, much as with Harms, are all sitting in the same chat in the Discord. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, there's no official team playing there. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some strategy worked out, or even just some sort of agreement, as in we're not going to kick the shit over each other. Oh, sorry, words. We're not going to have a real go at each other until Tim gets to us. Tim's in a situation pretty safe. Kurt's going to have to beat him by a lot more than that. Luke's pretty safe as well. They could just be at least at the top two, just planning just a grandstand finish for the final race of the season. Yeah,
they possibly could. There's been a little bit of moving and shaking in the order as well now, with everybody sort of have come through the lane this time around now, and Stancliffe has stopped, as well as the other Kiwis too. So it looks like he was on the hard tide to begin with. So corrected race order, so we get a personal best from Redmond that time around. Stenberg from Rosella and Tim Redmond, that's your top 3. Then you've got Hans Brunswick and Will Devenish, 4th and 5th. Those two separated by quite some distance actually. Then Brenton Foley, who's gone a bit backwards. Picardo and Burko are running side by side for a bit there. They're on the screen at the moment. And then you go back behind Burko to Cheese and Thrower, who stopped first. These two were in the lane first out of all the Kiwis cars that were in that queue. Higginson's made a gain, so that's an interesting point considering he dropped off the back of Turmo. He's made a net gain. Then you've got Snipes, Turmo, and then Scott Stancliffe behind there, and then Matt Cecil's actually got ahead of Freakish. So the Kiwi train has been split up, and they're all over the place now. And then the last one's behind Freakish: Kemp, Lockie Lock, Justin Cecil, Cam Rutledge, and Brendan Ross. So the last two there, Rutledge and Ross, the first two cars a lap down, and Lockie Lock and Justin Cecil are not that far away from actually making it another two cars going a lap down. Now out front, Rosella and Stenberg have started to pick their pace up a little bit. Rosella's taken back the lead of this race, and they're realising that Redmond is coming like a train at the moment, but they are still fighting each other a little bit. And last time's around, Stenberg a 13.2, it's Rosella a 12.7, and then Redmond a 12 flat, and Devenish an 11.7.
Interesting point as well for this battle, as Tim's catching them, they're going to be catching, amongst other things, that Kiwi train again.
They are, and they're being very respectful. They're being very respectful, leaving some space for each other. But look at that, the gap is gone. It's academic now. Redmond is right with the pair of them. So as much as they are having a little bit of fun, and I know they will be having a little bit of fun because that's what was going on there, they've now got a very, very rampant Kiwi behind them who's looking for a top 3 finish. And I mean, he'd be happy with the top 3 at this point because that would be enough to secure him second position overall in the championship for the year. But I'm sure he will want to go one better and maybe snaffle a second place, maybe a win. I think it might be a little bit of a bridge too far, but it will be interesting to see how the last 11 laps of this one pan out.
Like the way these two race in front, they're not going to be disrespectful to each other, but they are going to have the 10-10s go at each other if they decide to. That could mean thrills, that could mean spills. Tim's probably in a good position, just a little further back at sort of where he's sitting rather than being right up with them. That if something happens, he's got a split second to react to it and benefit from it. Again, you mentioned the wicketkeeper analogy. I think he's in a good spot for the moment. It's all going to depend on where he's at highlights. But Tim's a pretty, I won't quite say conservative because he is quick, but he's not the sort of driver to really wring the neck of his car to get the pace out of it unless he has to. And what we saw from at least qualifying is the Kiwis might have a setup up their sleeves. Maybe not quite the hyperdox stretch that you're going to get from, Kurt Stenberg and that like, but it's still a very good setup for how they drive their car. The way he might be driving, honestly, at a space where he's still got some tyre in the reserve. We saw the lap that Will just put in, which was an 11, which is quicker than what these three are doing. So,
look at the logjam of traffic they're about to come up to here, Brody, as well. This is going to be trouble.
Well. This is another thing for Tim. He can sit there and let these guys be the wedge to move the traffic through, and he can use the traffic in turn to essentially be a distraction for the two of you guys trying to race and help them make the path.
Well, Brendan Ross just vanished. I think he's actually DNF'd from this one, so I'm not sure if that might be an internet disconnect actually, because I just saw him flash away. So that's important for Rosella. He didn't have to negotiate. So that's one that they don't have to worry about. But you're right, it's going to be Rosella going to be the first man to wake up the traffic, and then everybody, the other two guys behind. That will be the interesting one that I have to keep an eye out here for this next few minutes. It's Justin Cecil in 19th place. Is just a little bit up the road here in the Team Harvey Norman Mustang. And then ahead of him, it's Lockie Lock and Darren Kemp and Matt Cecil. And then a little bit further ahead of them is Freakish. So they probably will get all of them in the next 5 or 6 laps. They'll pass them all. There they are. There's a nice little train there. And this is going to take... Oi! And there's a moment. There's a localised yellow here. And that is Darren Kemp. So, and he's had a bit of an issue there trying to get it into the lane as well. I wonder if he did what Brendan Ross did in that little one. Let's go and have a look at that one. Smith & Sons replay action for Darren Kemp. And he had a lock-up going into the hairpin. Matt Cecil was a bit wide. That checked Matt Cecil up. He did it all on his own. Same thing. No traction control. Yeah, almost identical to what Brendan Ross did.
Lap traffic is playing in. There was a battle going on between Lockie Lock and Justin Cecil. They got caught out of the second corner, which ended up balking both the leaders. Kim got on the brakes and avoided most of the chaos. Stenberg and Rosella side by side, which ended up letting Stenberg through. They're now going to catch Justin Cecil coming into the slow chicane, and that's going to probably balk Timmy a little bit.
Yeah, it's balked Redmond a little.
Down to the hairpin.
Yeah, it's got Redmond a little bit there as well. So Stenberg and Rosella got the better end of the stick there, and Cecil just needs to stay a little bit off the circuit here. He can use that side of the track. Act's actually very well done for Matt Cecil, and Redmond will be right on his hammer too, and he's just going to stay a little bit wider here at that corner and let Redmond through. So at the end of the day, they've all processed the traffic. So that's a fairly good job. And then the next man up the road is Freakish. There he is, just sort of disappearing into the background of the shot. They've all gotten through without too much trouble. They haven't lost too much time to each other, but it did sort of disrupt the status quo just for a little bit.
Yeah, so that has, as I said, that's put Kurt through. And now Luke, I mean, I don't know whether they're planning either or, whether, again, those records you mentioned that Luke's going for, whether he's trying to get one of these in here. Whether Kurt's also going to let him get one now that Kurt's, the ball's in Kurt's court as to who wins this race, at least from where we're sitting. Whether the wick turns up maybe, from 4 to 5 or 6 between the two cars that the leaders race now.
Yeah, that'll be the interesting piece to sort of work out in this whole dilemma as to how they're all going to sort of pan this one out. So they've all gotten through unscathed. There's a fair bit of this one sort of play. Here we go. Rosella now down the inside at the hairpin and can't get it stopped. So he just coughs that position straight back up. Redmond now right onto the back of Rosella for this second spot on the rostrum. Not really sort of threatening. I think he's just happy to sit there for the moment.
Yeah, he could have had it. He wasn't quite close enough, but he's definitely now in the mirrors for Luke Rosella. He's definitely closer to Luke than Luke is to Kurt. That said, Luke's got a pretty good run out of that last corner, and he's going to start to pile on the back of Kurt a little bit. But yeah, you know, it's Luke's race to lose from at least the top 2 at the moment. Tim, yeah, pretty happy to see where he's got. He's still going to be another 6 laps to go. And again, you know, all 3 of them have to make sure that they're on the tyres. Tim's in a good spot where he's probably happy with 3rd, so he's happy to sit back and make sure his tyres get there. 2 in front, you know, both being race winners, both want to be a race winner, and may be prepared to sort of let that slip in terms of the tyre conservation phase to get back clear of the race and then get to the last lap and find I've only got 3% left on a rear tyre.
Yep, you're not wrong there. There's a fair bit of tyre management I think will start panning out in the next couple of minutes, especially for a few of the drivers that stopped around lap 16, 17 that were maybe just short of the half distance marker they needed to be. So I'm looking at people like Dane Liccardo, who's currently sitting in position 6, Will Devonish, who's in position 5. They sort of came in at the same time. They're going to have to just be really careful that that extra lap doesn't sort of really hurt them and they realise they've got that much tyre left overall. Leaders going through again. Well, it's been one of those seasons, I think, Rhodey, and you can see here the ASR Supercars Championship stuff for 2021. Big thank you from the admin team there on the banners. It's one of the new things for this year on the wall, and really, really good to see. And a big thank you to everybody for 2021. Looking forward to seeing you all in 2022.
Absolutely. We're still got a nice little battle on for the front, still pretty close. Tim's just dropped back a little bit from the timing. I'm actually just trying to look back through it to see what else is happening. Harms is pretty comfortable in 4th. He's got air both ways. Will Devonish is currently trying to process some traffic, including his teammate in Lachlan Walk.
Yeah, this is the same traffic that these guys tried, the leaders tried to go through a little bit earlier, just all the first part of that traffic, I should say. Justin Cecil's fallen back, Lockie Lock, Matt Cecil, so he's about 2 laps behind processing the traffic relative to what the leaders did a little while ago.
Dan Liccardo up to 6th now, Foley's back to 7th, Burko sitting back in 8th. The next battle we've got on track is actually for 9th, 10th and 11th, which is unsurprisingly...
it's the Kiwi Nissans, 3 of the Kiwi Nissans. Here we go. Thrower, Snipes and Cheese all duking it out. So Thrower's got 9th at the moment. And then here we go, team of garage teammates side by side, boxing on, and they get through the chicane unscathed. So good driving all round from Snipes and Cheese. And that would have been a heart and a mouth for those 2 guys for a little bit.
Yeah, quality scrap here for the last place in the top 10 between the all the development Kiwi Sim Sports Nissans. And we talk about the year, like the Kiwi Sim Sports guys in general had a pretty cracking year, and they've come on strong for the pace in this last round, and I think that sets them up pretty well for the next year. Yep,
I think so too. Definitely some guys that have taken the opportunity to run more main game and stepped it up, and they didn't have to accept the opportunity to go up into Supercars, Cheese and Freakish, but they did. They've done fairly well, and I think all round Snipes probably can hold his head pretty high from a good solid season from him. Peter Thrower a little bit behind the teammate in terms of overall positions and points gained, but still very successful season overall. And we'll see what those guys have got in store for us in 2022, no doubt. It was a little bit of an interesting battle. Just for a second part of that last lap there, lap 31, between Stenberg, Rosella and Redmond, they were really, really close to each other, and very nearly there was a swap of positions. They're about to come across the teammate of or the stablemate of the Kiwis we were just watching in Freakish. So could he be the last man to really disrupt the top 3 here? You know, albeit accidentally, and you know, maybe change the balance there, sort of, because a little bit further up the road you've got Termo and Higginson, and they're quite some distance up the road from the leaders, so they're not going to be caught before the end of this race.
No, unless either of them have an issue, but yeah, they're 7 seconds clear. That said, Higo...
Yellow flag, there's a yellow flag out.
And
what's happening?
Curse him, that's Higo.
And it is Nathan Higginson that caused that one. So that's taken a passing opportunity away from Rosella. He realised what was going on there, and Higginson now has been passed by Freakish. So that means Higginson's going to be the one that they're going to have to come across. So he gets out of the way. And yes, you did. You put the commentator's curse on him, even though we weren't watching him. So we won't go back and watch the replay of that one. We will give him some relief for a change. And the leaders all get through. So 3 laps to run here. 1 more lap car to process, and Stenberg hunting down his 7th win of the campaign if he can keep this going. So, we said Rosella can't be beaten. He's got the most amount of wins for this year. Stenberg with 6 can definitely go one better. And then Redmond at the back. It's starting to get a little bit hard for him to really get up there and fight with him. Redmond has just started to lose, you know, a half a tenth here and a half a tenth there to Stenberg and Rosella, who just stepped it up a little bit in the last couple of laps, although they're not really gaining a lot of time. It's just little small bits here and there. There's a defensive hold from Kurt Stenberg down into the third last corner on the track. Rosella a little bit over aggressive on the throttle, had to pull his foot out of the accelerator very, very quickly to avoid looping the car.
Yeah, last lap through, Kurt and Luke both in the high 12s, Tim's in the very low 13s. Might change a little bit for this current lap through. What's helping keep Tim in it is Kurt probably driving at 9.5.
There we go.
And Luke driving 11, trying to make up an advantage.
Over and under treatment. Yes, no, maybe. Little bit of panel banging. Rosella got the job done, and he has to go the defensive route now. This is super aggressive defending from Rosella. He manages to hold the line, though, into 3 and come out the other side of it with the lead. But the question is he going to be able to hold it off for the last lap and a half? Redmond's right there, but I got a funny feeling he's just still quite content to sit there. Doesn't want to pull the trigger too early. No, just a little. Looked and showed the nose down the inside into 7 and 8. So
definitely more aggressive than we've seen from him. So he's starting to realise that I think he's feeling that he might have a chance here, and he's going to have to start to turn the wick up himself on these two to have a chance. We're coming into the last lap now.
They are coming into the last lap, the penultimate corner of the penultimate lap of the last race of the season. Is there a late change here, or is there going to be the same finishing order as they sit right now? And we're about to find out. I think Rosella's got a little bit of a margin here. Redmond's the one that's got to really make this putt stick. De Stenberg will have to take the defensive approach at 2, and he does, and he leaves the required space, although he moved over just a little bit late there in the braking zone. The car twitched and moved towards the outside wall, but I think that was probably unintentional.
Yeah, so he's running opportunities now, Tim. Kurt's not new to this game. He's been around a little while, so he's going to know most of the standard passing opportunities around this track. I think there's also a favoured track of Kurt as well, so he's definitely on a few laps around here. Tim's next opportunity is probably going to be up towards the hairpin if he can get a good run over the boundary road.
Yep, last 2 spots will be the hairpin and the final corner, so he hasn't got a good enough run out of here, I don't think. So it might be he'll have to really send it late if he wants to, but no, going to take the approach and try and get a really good run through the last couple of corners here and see if he can make this work. Rosella should get the win from here, though. The real battle behind, you can see with Redmond and Stenberg having to place the car defensively. Redmond's going to try hang it around the outside here, but is he going to get it done? I'm not quite sure. Rosella get it done. Redmond, is he going to get second? We'll soon find out. No, not by a lot, but it was an unorthodox move to go the long way round at turn number 13, and unfortunately didn't pay off. So win number 9 on a campaign for Rosella, and goes into the runoff area again. Stenberg position number 2 on the road. Redmond third. Have a look at the margin at the end of the day. It was less than a tenth between the two of them at the flag. So Redmond had good drive off. It just better secondary drive for them overall.
Yeah, Redmond had a good drive. He just couldn't get to the gas as soon as he wanted to with the used tyres. Kurt had the better run initially, but then he hit the gas a bit too early, got a wiggle over one of the bumps, which is what brought him back. But in the end, Kurt just that little bit better, and that's all he needed. But that was a bloody close finish. Devonish
home for 4th at the end of the day. So Brunswick faded in that one. He fades to 5th. So there was a late change of position for Will Devonish. So 4th for Devonish, 5th for Brunswick. Liccardo 6th again. Some really good, solid results for Liccardo, not only tonight, but also 3 weeks ago at Pukekohe. So he'll be pretty happy with that one. Then you've got Brenton Foley, position number 7. So he faded from starting spot of 3rd all the way back down to 7th. Steve Burko 8th. So I reckon the last couple of, save for the accident at Pukekohe, the last couple of rounds probably been the better part of Burko's season, with some really strong results, and I hope he carries that over into next year, because he's proven that at the right phase of the season, he can actually really drive really, really well. NZ Snipes 9th, so another top 10 for the Kiwi in car 420. And then Peter Thrower, I think that's got to be close to his first top 10 of the season. I'll have to go back and check the numbers, but that's very, very close for Thrower overall. Let me see if I can pull that up on the sheet while we're looking at it for Peter Thrower. No, he's had a top 10 before already. If we could go all the way back to Hidden Valley, he had one as well. So I do apologise, but it's a rarity for Thrower to have a good podium spot in that one. Oh, sorry, good top 10 in that one, rather. Scott Stancliffe 11th, Cheese in 12th. And then we go back through the order to Termo, Freakish, Higginson, Lockie Lock, Justin Cecil, Cam Rutledge, Matt Cecil, and Darren Kemp, the last of classified finishers. Brendan Ross out of this one. The only non-finisher from this race, position 21st. He only completed the 23 laps. We did see him have that accident at the pit lane entry position. So there's a few cars out of fuel in this one, Rhodey. I think there's Kurt Stenberg sitting on the side of the track, and there's a few drivers that are really struggling to make it back to the pits on their own power. Although that being said, some of them do have a little bit of fuel in reserve.
Yeah, I think coming a couple getting a little bit of help. The engine does still appear to be running on Kurt's car, but I can see Thrower trying desperately to him to get back to the lane, trying to use as little fuel. No, I say that, he's just going to do a burnout, so he's not using as little fuel as possible.
Yep, and Foley's at the final corner, so he's all gone past the pit entry, so I think it's fair to say that it's everyone letting their hair down time right now at the end of what's been a very, very long campaign. Not so much in terms of events, because we've only had the 10 events, but we've had 20 races, which I actually think is probably close to one of the longest seasons we've had with racing overall.
It's weird in that way, is that the calendar feels very short. Yes, only 10 rounds. It's the shortest round-based calendar we've had for supercars. But yeah, the number of races we've consistently had 2 races per round rather than running some of those really grueling, single race enduro nights that we sort of ran last year. And just the length to see as well, because of how early we started. We started, I believe it was in March we started. Came through till September, then dropped for the Enduro Cup for nearly 2 months, and then came back for the last 2 rounds. Yeah, I think it's been the longest season front to back that we've done as well.
Yeah, I would probably agree. It probably feels like a long time as well. It's a long time from when we started to go, and for the final time actually in ASR Supercars in 2021, we go to the podium interviews, and I think we might share this one a little bit, Rhodey. We might do the same thing we did last time. We'll start from 3rd place up in that one, and it was originally Tim Redmond who started off the front row yet again, but just faded to 3rd place in that one. Tim just didn't probably have enough to fight at the back end of that one. Very, very close though to snatching P2 at the line.
Yeah, you're right. It was definitely a bit of a drag race to the line there, and the wheels, the tyres were starting to get away from me there a little bit. I knew I'd come in a lap later than Kurt, so he's done really well to look after them as long as he did, and I saw him and Luke having a fight there as well. So it definitely helped me close the gap there. But no, I feel like I've had good pace all night anyway. So hats off to Luke, well done for your race wins and obviously your championship, and hats off to Kurt for some really good racing tonight.
Yeah, very gracious, I think, in defeat there. And I think you hit the nail on the head pretty well. Stenberg and Rosella probably did a much better job just in the first phase after the pit stops in that race to look after the tyres, so they did have something to fight with toward the end, because you did lose a little bit of time to them through the pit stop sequence. You'd gained the time over them coming into the stops. You lost some time coming out of the stops, but you did close the margin down. But at the end of the day, they just had a little bit left in reserve to just hold off the advances. What was it like negotiating the traffic though, because that got a little bit hairy from what we saw toward the end of that race with a number of lap cars?
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think there was one pack in particular that looked like they were all kind of jostling for position and doing their own race as well. So felt a bit bad us coming up and sort of mixing that up and with them a little bit. But you know what, they actually did pretty well. Like it was fairly tight through some of those sections, but we all managed to negotiate and those corners and those cars fairly well tonight. So again, thank you to them for having some great vision to see us coming as well.
Yeah, no, I think a few drivers did a fairly good job with that. I guess your 3rd place overall tonight is definitely enough to keep you in 2nd place overall for the championship. So in your first full season of running in the top flight main game. I think second is definitely something you can hang your hat on. No race victories this year. Plenty of podiums, though. Couple of indiscretions. Just sum your season up in about 10 seconds for us.
I'd say that I came in to really just give it a go and try and be consistent through the whole way through. And I think, it's testament to that. As you mentioned, I haven't had a race win. So we're here in second. I'm very proud of the result and very proud of the team and the guys who supported that way through as well.
Well said. Very well done. And again, congratulations not only on the podium tonight, but on second overall in the championship. Well done.
Thank you.
Righty, let's have a chat to the man who was in that drag race with Tim Redmond to the line, Kurt Stenberg.
So, Kurt, that was obviously a much cleaner race for you, much cleaner race as a whole. It really felt more into the strategy play. Just overall, did you feel comfortable with your strategy going in as the race played out?
I did not feel comfortable. I didn't think we'd make the tyres to halfway. I've actually got something to add. I had an incident in qualifying. That's why I didn't set a lap until about 5 minutes to go. I cut my foot open outside on a bit of glass when I went to get a drink. So, yeah, I had to get a Band-Aid on that and try and fix that. Set a lap, put it P4, and then, yeah, the race. So that made the start of the race interesting. But, yeah, I didn't know how we were going to go on tyres. I just thought pass as many people as possible, sit behind Luke, see what happens. And as it turns out, I could only get the tyres as far as I could get them, and Luke managed to get an extra lap. So made a tyre pressure adjustment in the pit stop and tried to undercut him and also back him up to save my tyres as much as possible. But, yeah, and the traffic sort of helped me a bit there throughout the race. But we got to the last few laps and I just had nothing. And then there with Tim at the end, I knew I had to defend in the last corner. I knew I had nothing left. I finished the line, crossed the line with 0.02% of rear tyre. So, yeah, it had no drive off the corner, but we managed to get there in second place.
Yeah, well, actually, I was talking about that lap traffic because that was the one big change, or one of the big changes for the lead in the back end of the race was that sort of luck you got with the lap traffic. I think it was a couple of cars you guys caught trying to go too wide, having their own race out of turn 2, and then I think it was Luke that got balked initially. Was that really more just for you, just there's a chance you get a pass, or is it just more of a please don't kill me?
It was a bit of a please don't kill me, but then I saw Lockie Lock move over and I saw Luke move to the same direction. I thought, I'm going to stay on the racing line here. I'm going to keep in it. I knew that if I wasn't in front of Luke, I wasn't going to... I know it's obvious. If you're not leading, you're not going to win the race. But I needed to be in front of him because I wasn't going to have a chance to come back at him later on with the way my tyres were. So the only way to win it was going to be to defend. And, yeah, we took the opportunity that presented itself and we didn't get killed by anyone. But yeah, we didn't have enough to hang on. So, but awesome racing for the top 3. That was a blast.
That was really awesome. So for the season as a whole, you finished third. Obviously, you had a couple of DNFs through the season. A couple of races didn't quite go your way, but as you said for the season as a whole, you're pretty happy with the result.
Yeah, look, Adelaide we had a DNF, and then we didn't start at Sydney the first race. So I mean, look, 6 race wins. We had a few issues in the middle there that kind of cost us any chance at the title. So to hang on to a podium's pretty good. With all that, I would have liked to defend the title, but, I knew from mid-season onwards, Luke's very strong. He's gotten a lot stronger this year, and he's gone from being able to challenge to wins to being actually pretty hard to beat. So you got to be on your A game. So, yeah, it's been good, and third place I'll take, and it's a credit to Luke and Tim for one-upping me.
Absolutely. Great work this season, Kurt, and hopefully we'll see you back next year.
No worries. See you then.
And now that we'll hand over to you to have a chat to our season champion.
Yep, officially crowned season champion at the last round of the year, Luke Rosella. Luke, 9 wins on the championship season. Got to go back to actually see whether that is close to a record or not, but it's definitely up there. Multiple podiums, and from my point of view, I think your second half of the season probably was where a lot of the damage was done. You were outstanding through the second half of the season. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. It sure was bloody brilliant. Yeah, like I said at Pukekohe, something just clicked at Queensland, and after then it was just unbelievable. Wins were coming like no tomorrow. Yeah, I mean it was pretty much a fairy tale last half of the season. had some great battles with Kurt and Will and Tim as well. You know, and yeah, it's just been a blast this season. Never would have thought I would have won. Even like I would have been happy with third or fourth in the championship, but to win it is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I guess it's going to take a little bit of time to sink in. I mean, it's sort of really sunk in a little bit at Pukekohe, and you've had 3 weeks to sort of think about it now and realise, I guess, what you've actually achieved, and that it was pretty much insurmountable after Pukekohe that the damage was done and there was no way else that anyone was going to get past you. Go back to, well, better part of 16, 17, 18 months ago when you first started. It was a very difficult, I guess, introduction for you when we think about it in the Volvo at Barbagallo and all sorts of issues that you had that went along with it. But you very quickly developed from, you know, that time in 2020 to now, and the trajectory you've been on is enormous.
Yeah, I missed the Volvo. I wish I could still run it, but yeah, it certainly was a pretty interesting year. Pretty much first year in competitive league racing. I've been sim racing about maybe a couple of years before that, but yeah, really the first year in competitive sim racing. Yeah, I think I pretty much learned a lot as a driver in terms of not only outright pace but also racecraft. Yeah, just kept on getting better and better. And yeah, this year certainly was pretty much I wouldn't say a perfect year, but it certainly was very, very strong. And not only racing the supercar, but racing other series has not only improved my driving, but yeah, we've found a lot of success in. So yeah, it's been fun. You know, I want to thank you guys for organising not only supercars but all the other events this year and last year. It's such a well-run league, and yeah, it's been amazing. Can't wait to have another go next year in whatever car I drive.
Well, there you go. I think that's always the thing to look forward to is next year. So soak it in. The fourth ASR Supercars champion in as many seasons, Luke Rosella. Well done again.
Thank you, Nether.
Well, Rody, you can see on the background of the picture there, as we said, there's the thank you for 2021 and see you in 2022. I know we've spoken that a couple of times already tonight. There's been a fair bit of, good things that I think we've looked forward to this year and that we've seen. Definitely plenty of drivers stepped up a gear this year. The level of competition went up another notch year on year on year on year. 4 years consecutive, it's gotten better and better and better and more competitive again. Probably the most competitive year we've had all the way up and down the field. I know that the numbers on the point standings at the end of the day probably don't truly reflect just how close the championship was between a lot of drivers and a lot of the battles that were going on, because you've got to take DNFs and all sorts of things into that. But 2021 season, give me your 10-second summary.
I got to see from both angles, both being in the car and in the commentary box. No, it's been a really, really good season, and it's set the groundwork for what next year's going to look like. And no, you're right, drivers are getting better and better. So I'm really keen to see what Supercars looks like next year.
Yeah, me too. Interesting. It's going to be hard to get used to it after the break, getting back into the swing of things, as it's been like that for the last couple of years with everything going on with COVID. Before we finish up tonight, I did want to have the webcam set up for this one so I could do this one physically in front of you, but I think we'll save the webcam for when we get to the end of season awards night in a little bit. First and foremost, a big thank you to all the drivers that come each and every week to make this series happen. Without you guys, there is no league, and we always say that this is your league. We're the ones just putting everything into place. Whatever you guys want to do, we're the ones that put it all together and deliver it. And we're really grateful that you come back each and every week and make it happen. The numbers this year have been incredible, not just across Supercars, but across all of the series, all the mainstream series in general. We've had some record grid numbers. We've had some really good racing and a whole bunch of lap records and a whole bunch of new champions this year across all of the series. All of them are now officially decided. With pending all the penalties, but most of them are officially decided, including the Super Series, which is the last one next Tuesday. So that's a really positive thing to note. I want to thank everybody that tunes into the live streams every week, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it back later on and giving it a like, or subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate you for doing that. Also for the ones that happen on the Loose Sim Network, for Lewis Wedding, the Endurance Chat Media ones for Kiwi and Flood, and for the guys that fill in there as well. It's been really grateful, and the guys are really happy to do that. They love doing it, and all they ask is for a like and a subscribe, and to you guys to be happy for what we actually produce. I want to give a big thank you to Rhodey, who's been in the box here for the better part of the season. A big thank you to Hans Brunswick, who started out the season with me. We actually started broadcasting here from my studio live together at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, COVID put that on hold. With a number of things that happened. So we've had a bit of a rotating box of commentary crew. Michael the Floodman Zalavari, who's actually been in the box for Supercars once this year. Lewis, who is in for Pukekohe. So it's been a bit of a revolving door opposite me. I mean, they call me the voice of ASR for, I guess, a reason, but it doesn't go according to plan unless there's other people opposite the box as well. And while we've got him opportunity as well, thanks to Bagsy for his insights into GT3 as well. This year's been really great. Apart from that, the last thing is a big thank you to, as I said before, the sponsors for everything that they've done this year, mainly for Supercars, for Smith & Sons. They're very, very, very generous donation to help us pay off the Mustang and put a little bit in the kitty for reserve. So Scott Nolan, much appreciated. Thank you very much. And also to, as I said before, Penrite and Oil and Ryco Filters for the prize packs that are coming as part of Enduro Cup and our end of season awards night coming up in just over a week. And the whole admin crew, the ASR admin crew. I know, yes, you all know that I'm part of the admin crew. You also know Rhodey's part of the admin crew as well. It's only a small group of 7 people, but the amount of work these guys do is incredible. How they pull together to make things happen, and couldn't be happier to be part of another admin crew. I think even people that have been around the group for a while have turned around and said, pound for pound, probably one of the best, if not the best, admin crews going around, and put them up against anybody in the world. So those are the sorts of comments that really make us smile. So for the final time in 2021, when it comes to racing, I would like to bid you all adieu. Thank you very much for watching, and the most important thing is to quote a little song from Brendan Ross, because he loves a song. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's Christmas, guys, so please be safe around Christmas, and we'll see you in 2022 for more Supercars, GT3, any sort of racing action. Bye for now.